want to hack the sky, you just need to fly high. It will be cold for a while, but at the end of time I will be on your side. Whoa, please don't go too far. Whoa, please don't go too far. If you want to travel miles, pack your dreams and thrive outside. I will be here for advice while you get into the wild. Whoa, please don't go too far. Whoa, please don't go too far. To leave this world and just leave my home alone in the dark. I remember we used to smile, but please don't go too far.
Good evening, Vacaville. This is November 19th, 2025. It's 6 p.m. This is our regular meeting, although it is not regular because we don't normally have it on Wednesdays. So as a reminder, we are here today on Wednesday. Do I have a roll call?
Council Agency Authority Member Stockton?
Here.
Ritchie?
Here.
Silva?
Here.
Freeman?
Here.
Wiley? Here. Vice Mayor, Vice Chair Chapman? Here. Mayor Chair Carley.
Here. And if you're able, will you please stand for a moment of silence followed by the pledge? Councilmember Freeman, will you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Mayor, if I can just make one clarification, this is a regular meeting tonight. It's on an unusual day, but
That's
the
all.
council did adopt it as a regular meeting.
That's fine. Yes, it is regular. It's just unusual that we're doing it on a Wednesday. So thank you for the clarification. It's like, how's it regular when it's normally on a Tuesday?
Yeah, it's just important for the record on a couple of items on this.
Yes, I appreciate that. I appreciate that clarification. There is nothing to report out on closed session. We did meet earlier at 5 o'clock. So do we have any changes to tonight's agenda?
No, we don't.
Okay. With that, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion is successful. We'll move on to reports of the City Council. This is an opportunity to also update on any of boards that you may have attended, to update the council and the public on any meetings that you may have had. Councilmember Silva.
So nothing on any specific committees, but I just know that during the holidays, as much as it's always a joyous celebration for many, and I got a lot of different events coming up in different capacities, sometimes it's pretty tough on a lot of individuals. So depending on where you're at, don't be afraid to, or please don't hesitate to reach out to a loved one or a friend, however that might be. Recently in one neck of the woods, there's been just a couple of fundraisers to help raise funds for loved ones that recently passed. So it's always a challenge to see, families, try to pull it together to raise what they can, selling food, to lay their loved ones to rest. But it's also very enlightening to see how people in our community step up, although maybe quietly, in their own way to support, those particular efforts. So definitely want to just express my love and appreciation for the sense of community we have as we go into this holiday season.
Councilmember Wiley.
I haven't had much to report lately because our Travis Regional Armed Forces Committee has not been meeting due to the shutdown, but we will have a meeting this week and next week, so I'm just happy to know that we are back to go with that.
That's great. Vice Mayor Chapman.
Thank you. Just want to share that I had an opportunity to attend a few events in the Marathoner instead, which I was very thankful and appreciative because they all pertain pretty much to our veterans. We were recognizing Veterans Day, the 250th anniversary of the Marines. The DAW, Daughters of the American Revolution, they had an event today. There was two events. The one at the Veterans Hall, it was just a veterans celebration.
For veterans.
Yeah, but anyway, we've been giving a lot of honor to our veterans who are very deserving of the recognition. So I wanted to make mention of that in particular. And also, I would like to wish everyone a blessed Thanksgiving. Enjoy your time with your families.
Yeah, thank you. And just one other comment on the Daughters of the American Revolution. This is their final year of the 50th anniversary of the return after Vietnam. And so their goal has been over the last few decades, I think it's been to honor every Vietnam vet. And even today, they continued that in honoring local veterans of all of our branches of the military who never received a proper welcome. And they also received a mayor's commendation on behalf of the city of Vacaville, other cities as well, but it was held today at Roland Freedom Center. This is definitely a military community, and so it was good to see that. So. All right, seeing no other lights, I'm going to go ahead and move on. Report to the city manager to, do we have any reports tonight?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members and community members. I actually have 4 updates today. Great. So the first one is we are going to play 2 videos today. One is on the murals that have been established throughout the city, as well as a Merriment on Main event, which is scheduled for December 2nd, the Tuesday, from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., and the tree lighting would be at 6:30 p.m. So we will play the videos, and then I'll give the other couple of updates.
That's great.
Following what we experienced last year with Touch the Sky statue in Andrews Park, and of course the labyrinthine heart on Main Street, these murals are a great addition to make our downtown an even more attractive place for people to visit. It's the experience under the canopy of trees or music in our square. We look around and we sense the art.
Stage from Local Edition reached out to me and said, hey, the Brenton Theaters would like to do a mural project. They'll pay for it, but they'll only do it if the city will do an additional mural project downtown. So from my perspective, that was a challenge that was issued, and it was sort of a challenge that was accepted. When I talked to Mayor Carley and I talked to my staff, really it was like, how can we make this happen?
People drive into Vacaville, they want to see something that captures what our community is all about. I get great positive feedback from people saying we need more of that. We love seeing murals downtown. We love seeing them. And how we continue to keep that momentum going is through the Arts and Culture Master Plan. That is a guiding document that we spent over a year building with the help of our community and through their input that will be the catalyst for the future of public art and what we bring to fruition in our community.
Everyone that walked by, I don't know why, they're like, oh, I love the horse, I love this. And I'm like, I don't know why everyone loves the horses out here. And then come to find out the history of Vacaville and its roots and how it was formed and all that. I'm like, oh wow, this makes total sense. You know what I mean?
I would love for any kid to see any of the works that we do and just get inspired from it, because that's what got me hooked, you know, as a kid. If any younger person could get inspired by anything I do, then man, that's where it's at.
Didn't I just drop you off at school?
How about this? Santa comes in by parachute.
Don't forget!
Tuesday after Thanksgiving, we're working on it.
So are you nervous yet?
Nah. Are you nervous?
Nah. It's only gonna be 10,000 people. Where are the cookies? Don't forget!
Well, with those wonderful videos, the next good news I have to share is our Public Works Department won 2 awards from Solano Transportation Authority around the Jepson Parkway project. One was the Project of the Year, and the other one was Project Delivery of the Year, which meant that we delivered the project within the cost and the timelines. So we met the budget and timelines. We actually came lower or before the timeline was due. So that was a great award. Thank you, Public Works team. Two other great news I have to share is we have done 2 tremendous solar projects within the city, which will generate $25 million savings for each individual project. The first one is, which is led by Public Works Department again, 6 out of the 8 sites are already complete. We have started generating the solar power savings, and this project will return cumulative savings of $25 million, about $1 million each annually for the next 25 years. The second one is at our utility plant. We had the ribbon cutting this week, and I will just read this. City of Vacaville energized a 5-megawatt solar and battery energy storage system at the Easterly wastewater treatment plant, marking a major milestone which will reduce emissions, strengthen the reliability, and generate more than $25 million in long-term energy cost savings for the city. It was developed with partnership with our vendor partner Forefront through a 20-year power purchase agreement, and the system will produce over 8 million kilowatt hours of clean electricity annually, powering our essential operations, improving air quality, and advancing Vacaville's long-term sustainability goals. So again, kudos to our Public Works and Utilities for bringing those savings for our community. Yes. Thank you. That's my update. Thank you.
Yeah, very impressive what staff has done over the course of the last few years to get us to this place. And when all the concerns sometimes relate to stability and costs, and when we can deliver projects like this, it just demonstrates the quality of our staff. So thank you. All right, so we'll move on. We have no presentations tonight, so we'll move on to item 9's consent calendar. There's A through G. Any member of the council or the public wishing to pull an item for discussion? Yes. Which item?
Good evening, Mayor, council, staff, and public. My name is Roberto Valdez. I'm a longtime resident, but I'm here also as the current chair for the Napa Solano Audubon Society Conservation and for Solano County. And what I'm here for is because
is there a particular item on?
Yes, sir. Yes, yeah, item number 9. Do you want me to
which item on
refer to it now or wait?
Well, first of all, what I need to do is find out which item it is that you're.
Okay, I was going to explain to you why I'm here. I'm here because I want to address item 9B, which has.
Item 9B?
9B, which has to do the resolution, which has to do with the buildup of the, that you're going to, I understand you're going to consider for the reserve for the Boring Owls site.
So that's good. Hold on right there. Thank you. So that's 9B. Let's just do this in order.
Okay.
So 9B, any other member of the council or the public that has a request to pull any other item other than 9B? Seeing none, do I have a motion on? Yes.
I have one clerical error that I want to clarify on item 9D. There's no changes to the staff report or resolution. The contract that is attached has the end date of July 31st, 2025 that is listed. It would be changed to July 31st, 2026.
First, 2026. Okay. So that's D. So the clarification is just a date on item 9D. So can I have a motion on items A through G with the update on item D for the date, with the exception of B? We have a motion? Second. Yes. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. So now what we'll do is we'll open up item 9B and go ahead.
Thank you, and apologize if I misstep your protocol, okay? I respect that, really. Anyway, I'm here because, number one, I want to applaud you for recognizing the fact that there are boring hours. In fact, and I've been involved 30 years with the proposed habitat conservation. I'm a residential stakeholder. I don't belong to any government other than the the public. And, but I respect that and I appreciate them. And I will say that, there's plenty of evidence. There's many occurrences and reoccurrence of boring owls between the area of eastern Vacaville and northwest Vacaville, northeast Vacaville and Dixon. At least that's what I understand from the LSA in maps, the consultants for the Solano County Water Agency, who has dealt with past 30 years, as far as I know, with a proposed that has never been approved yet, but I hope it will be approved this year again. Anyway, so I want to applaud you for that. However, I am here for two reasons. One more important reason, because I'm still waiting to hear from your planning department as to two questions that I wanted to inquire to. Number one, and I think I read your resolution clearly that you do purport to strive for goal 3, protected quality of life. My question to you is, and to them, would have been this afternoon, because I was referred to you by the construction manager to them, and I haven't gotten any response yet, whether it includes boring owls. Again, bear in mind what I just mentioned to you, the fact that there are many boring owls roosting, making their nests, and they're just trying to raise a family like all of you, like all of us, And but the other thing I wanted to ask is, and this is I'm asking beyond the city, whether it makes sense to build a reservoir, a reserve, not a reservoir. Correct me on that. A reserve. Next to the railroad tracks. If you know anything of boring owls, they bore or they take over holes from other species, or I don't know, ground squirrels, whatever, and they they start building their nests, and when you have the train coming in regularly, many times through the day, does it really make sense when they're seasonally trying to build their nests? I respect the fact that and again, I applaud you for trying to recognize that they're here.
You still like,
They've always been here.
You don't like the location, though?
Huh?
Is that what you're saying? You don't like the location?
I'm concerned about the location, sir, and I'm asking for other scientists to give me feedback from the Fish and Wildlife Service, and also the people that I know from our Audubon Society. We have many experts that are trained, ornithologists, experts on birds. They study birds, and but that's not the only species I'm concerned about, as you know, in the past. But anyway, so I'd like to get some feedback from your staff or people. What are we doing here? I hope to hear and get the response as soon as possible. But I'm here because of that plain fact. And so, hopefully we'll all be happy and the boring owls will still be here. We won't be decimating them. And you know what's happened in the past. I don't have to go into the negative stuff. You know what's happened at Green Tree Project, where they were disturbed by, not the developer, but by auto dealer there. And I've never seen so many frightened birds as I've seen on TV, Channel 10, many years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and I don't know if the city did anything, but I do know because I saw the officials, the agents from representatives from the Fish and Wildlife are looking at that ground after people complain. So again, bear that in mind before you approve projects. I hope you make it plain to other developers. They need to consider, especially when you've got all those projects being built. But I'm here for Roberts Ranch.
That's right.
Project.
We're only here for Roberts Ranch. I know that there's a lot of information. So thank you for your time and for your comments. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we will be watching. Thank you.
With that, since this item is opened, does any other member of the public wish to comment on this? And then also bring it back to the council. I'm going to ask if there's any staff member that can aid in assisting us on any of that information. Seeing no one else, I'm going to go ahead and have staff come forward, and I'm also going to call on Councilmember Wiley.
Well, just thank you for your comments, and you mentioned quite a few burrowing owls in the north part of town, but when I moved to town 30 years ago, there were a lot in the south part too, before Southtown and all that was built. And I know that they're not there anymore, and it's really hard to identify a location and tell the birds that that's where you're going to be. So just because we identify a location does not mean that that's where the burrowing owls will happily make their home, particularly next to the railroad. So it also struck me as very odd placement for a mitigation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
I'm going to speak at the high level. If we have to get deeper, I do have our senior planner here. But this mitigation measure in this location was established through the Roberts Ranch CEQA process. It was reviewed by biologists and went through all the regulatory agencies that protect critters, such as the burrowing owl. So this may seem like kind of a small piece and kind of a random spot, but it basically came out of a long development process involving a lot of technical expertise from other agencies and biologists. If there's any other questions, I'm going to put Albert Enold up here to answer them.
Would you like to share? Do you have anything else? You always have some insight, so.
He really knows a lot about this.
So I think, given the circumstances and the Councilmember Wiley's comments, so.
Yeah, I think something that might be helpful for the conversation is that how is mitigation satisfied? So back when this environmental impact report was advertised to the public, it was known that there were a number of avian species, Swainson hawk and burrowing owl, that were going to occur on the site, and they did surveys. And so the answer to that that's been offered by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife is when you are going to impact their habitat, you have to mitigate for it. And the way that you mitigate for it is by buying or purchasing land elsewhere that's suitable for those species, recording conservation easement over that land, and then holding in perpetuity. And no development can occur on that land. And that's a standard mitigation that you'll find elsewhere. For this development, that is the way that they advertised how they were going to mitigate the impacts to burrowing owls. What you're finding with these box and these locations were above and beyond. This was a special project that was presented by Regis Development as a way to say, we don't think that it's enough just to mitigate. We want to do something special within this open space that's right against the agricultural area. And so that's really what this is about, is that those improvements have already been put in, and so this is Public Works saying that it's ready to be accepted at this point now.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I think that I brought this back to the council. Any other comments on the council? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve 9B.
Second. We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? All right. Thank you for the explanation. Thank you for the question as well. I know how much that your advocacy over the years is very well known and notable. So thank you. All right. We're going to go ahead and move on. Next item is business from the floor, item 10. This is the opportunity for any member of the public to address the council on any item that's not on the agenda that is within our jurisdiction. You'll have 3 minutes. Please come forward if anyone wants to address the council.
Someone left their phone here?
Yeah. There's a phone up here.
Thank you.
Good evening. This morning I looked at my front of my newspaper. There's a photograph of Mayor Carley. They're standing doing the ceremonial turning on of the solar panels for the sewer plant. And first of all, let me mention, Mr. Mayor, City Council, I do appreciate the amount of time that you have put into attempting to push back against the best plants that they're trying to put here in the city and also right outside the city, because we're going to become one great big chemical waste dump. However, looking at that photograph in the picture, a friend of mine sent the same picture to me in my email later, because he's much smarter and cleverer than me. And he commented on, so I guess that battery fires that big battery fires we can't put out are bad, but little battery fires we can't put out are okay. Just an observation. Okay, I'm also aware that some of you are really beginning to listen to some of the sweet sounds coming out of California Forever, and you're beginning to believe some of their hype. Please let us remind you, this is a Reader's Digest version of the billions of dollars that California Forever is going to cost Solano County and the taxpayers therein, and that includes us. So any of you who are feeling like California Forever may be telling that they're really going to provide us all kind of jobs and it's going to be great and wonderful, just remember, we pay the startup price and it runs into billions. So just thought I'd mention that. It's just like former State Senator Bill Dodd said, California Forever is nothing more than a sleazy real estate swindle. So those of you who want to crawl in bed with that bunch, just remember, you're screwing over all the people you know.
Thank you.
Roberto Valdez, longtime resident. I'm speaking as an individual citizen. I want to say applaud this man. He is persistent. He is good. And I really appreciate his thought, especially with California Forever. And I'm telling you, I've been to several hearings in Suisun, when we had that hearing here in Vacaville, 2 or 3 years ago. And one thing I do not appreciate about this particular outside group, and they're really outsiders, they come in here and they divide us and conquer us. That's their strategy. And they go by one of these people. You should keep that in mind. He is telling you the truth. It's not just about money, but it is money. And I understand that Suisun, like a lot of cities, are having trouble. I've been to their hearings, and I can tell you as an observation, again, half of our people want it, half of us don't. So the best thing is for Suisun City to put it on a ballot, what you should have done for Lagoon Valley, and let the people decide. And you are all respected people who were elected, and like they are. But you know what? In my observation, nobody knows what they're doing over there, except Mrs. Washington. She's asking the questions that need to be asked before we let this outside group take over our city, impact our traffic congestion there that's already bad, and take over the agriculture land, and also destroy the wildlife that's there. I can tell you, again, I've been 30 years with the Solano proposed habitat, and I've seen the maps for that area. The only reason I think they're there, Mr. what his name from Czechoslovakia, he comes in here and says, oh, I discovered. No, he looked at those maps and he saw they're considered low value. But within those low agricultural grasslands, there's plenty of species, not only under the ground, in the grass, but also flying around. So he's telling you the truth. So before you welcome them or go with them, think about what is not only going to have the impact to the wild, but also to the people that work here. It's not fair, and they need to respect that and do it properly and not try to buy everybody that they can put on their coffers. I hope we don't get to that level. Amen. Thank you. Have a nice holiday.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, staff, and members of the public. I just want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Ruben Galvan. I'm a field representative of the NorCal Carpenters Union, Local 180, and I was recently assigned to Solano County, so I'll be a regular audience member here, always advocating for strong labor standards for all construction workers on all construction projects and developments. And, that means fair wages, health insurance benefits, as well as opportunity for apprentices from state accredited programs. So thank you. Have a good evening.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Seeing no one else, I'm going to go ahead and close the business from the floor. And tonight we do have a couple of public hearings, so we'll start with 11A.
11A is a public hearing and adoption of an ordinance amending the Vacaville Municipal Code to adopt by reference the 2025 California Building Standards Code, 2024 International Property Maintenance Code, and supplementary secondary references with local amendments. And we have Chief Building Official Letty Stunn and Fire Marshal Jill Childers to make the presentation with Assistant City Attorney Annie Branham.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. We have prepared tonight a brief presentation for the triennial code update. Every 3 years, building and fire codes are reviewed and updated to address California's ever-changing conditions. These updates are published by the California Building Standards Commission and are enforced by local building and fire departments. Officially known as Title 24 of the California Code of Regulations, our building and fire codes are state laws that govern the design and construction of buildings, non-building structures, equipment, electrical, mechanical, and plumbing systems, and apply to all occupancies throughout the state of California. State law mandates that local jurisdictions implement the updated code starting January 1st, 2026. The local amendments also go into effect that same date. Vacaville has consistently adopted the local amendments as part of this process over the several code cycles. In conclusion, the ordinance presented tonight adopts the newly published California Building Standards Code, administrative procedures, and local amendments related to those standards, including the new 2025 California Wildland Urban Interface Code, the 2024 International Property Maintenance Code, and supplementary secondary code references. Tonight, we are recommending that by title only, introduce the subject ordinance and find the adoption of the ordinance exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. And note that the first reading of the ordinance was on October 14th, 2026, and that the new code will go into effect on January 1st of 2026. This concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions any of you may have.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't see any questions. This is a public hearing, so I will open it up to the public. And seeing none, I will go ahead and bring it back to the council. I think this question came up last time. It's the only question I had, and that is this, as far as the standard goes, when we adopt it, how does the public know that there's this update? Just they come to our website, or do we have any other type of a communication media campaign that helps to let people know we update these standards, and here's why? Because sometimes what we get is we get complaints, right? I didn't know that this changed, and how do we avoid the pressures of sometimes the public not knowing? Do we have any type of an outreach?
So we did develop a frequently asked question document that we did post on our website, and we also provided some information, I believe, through a constant contact communication to a lot of our developers and community members as well.
Right, and do we push that out on our social media as well?
I don't recall.
I don't remember.
Okay.
I believe it was published in the newspaper, though.
Yeah, between the newspaper and social media, I think I know where people might look at it, so I'm just thinking.
We have plenty of time to do it.
Okay, great. Yes. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll entertain a motion. We have a motion. We have Vice Mayor second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam City Clerk, we'll move on to 11B.
This is two resolutions and an ordinance for a zoning text amendment and approval of a conditional use permit for the dog stop project located at 848A Alamo Drive. Assistant Planner Brenna Lashinsky and Senior Planner Albert Eno will be making the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Carley, Vice Mayor Chapman, members of the council. I'm Brenna Glushinsky. I'm an assistant planner with our planning department. I am here tonight to present the dog stop. The request before you tonight is to amend Title 14 of our municipal code to allow animal shelter and boarding in the commercial general zoning district with a use permit, as well as to approve a conditional use permit to establish the dog stop with an existing approximately 8,000 square foot tenant space located at 848 Alamo Drive. You'll see here, this is all of our commercial general zones within the city of Vacaville. Here's the location of the proposed dog stop within the Ranch Shopping Center. The project background is before you, and it is also indicated within the staff report. The definition of animal shelter and boarding is a commercial, nonprofit, or governmental facility for keeping, boarding, training, breeding, or maintaining, generally overnight or in excess of 24 hours, dogs, cats, or other household pets not owned by the owner or operator of the facility. It is currently only allowed within the uses shown here. Thus, a zoning text amendment would be required in order to allow animal shelter and boarding facilities within the CG district. This would be, in all uses, a minor use permit would be required unless it's next to residential zones or uses in which we would require a conditional use permit. We've also created developmental standards. And lastly, we have a conditional use permit for the dog stop. You'll see here that the zone is zoned commercial general within the general plan and on our zoning map. The proposed amendment is to amend the land use regulation table to allow animal shelter and boarding within the commercial general zones using a minor use permit or a conditional use permit. We would also like to create a new section for animal shelter and boarding with new standards and regulations regarding odor and refuse collection, noise, and outdoor areas. These standards were based on research of the 23 different jurisdictions within California. We've also discussed animal waste and noise with proposed ordinances with trash enclosures and acoustical analysis. And this was an area in which staff and the applicant slightly disagreed, but we worked together to come to conclusions. The next component of this project is for the conditional use permit for the dog stop, which would be located at 848A Alamo Drive. This is an approximately 8,000 square foot tenant space. It would include an additional 1,300 square foot outdoor area, and there would be 77 pet boarding spaces inside. This area abuts residential uses. The building is about 80 feet away, as well as the proposed outdoor area is 140 feet away. Public concerns were brought up regarding noise from barking and odors from trash. Once again, this is the location of the proposed dog stop in the Ranch Plaza. You'll see here the site plan for the dog stop. You'll see this green square, which indicates the proposed outdoor area. Conditions of approval were set for noise, trash enclosures, and landscaping to address those. Staff is required to do an environmental analysis, and we have concluded that it agrees with sections 15301 and 1503 of CEQA, thus it is categorically exempt. Staff did do public outreach by mailing new project notices. We hosted a neighborhood meeting, and we mailed notices for public hearings. We did receive public comments previously regarding odor and noise, and we believe that our responses are collected within our proposed ordinance. On October 21st, we went through up to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission voted in favor 7-0 to recommend the approval of this project. Topics discussed include concerns requiring the acoustical analysis and that it was too expensive for small businesses and it's not warranted in this particular location due to roadway noise. They suggested removing the acoustical analysis study from the conditions of approval for the dog stop project, however, keeping it in the requirements for the ordinance. In conclusion, we believe that the proposed ordinance addresses public concerns, it meets required findings for a zoning text amendment and conditional use permit, and that all the conditions ensure compliance with the proposed ordinance. By simple motion, staff recommends that the City Council introduce the ordinance and approve the conditional use permit for the dog stop. This concludes our presentation tonight, and staff and the applicant are available for questions if you have any.
Thank you for the presentation. Councilmember Silva?
No, so I think it's been a 2-year process from, I think the concept was first pitched from the applicant. So I appreciate all the protections being put in place to help protect or mitigate future issues that come up with the existing residents. Question I had was, does this fall under TOT? Travel for
We don't know.
pets,
That's a good question.
tax? No. I'm kind of curious. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Chapman.
Thank you. I noticed on one of the slides that the business is commercial nonprofit. How does it qualify as a nonprofit? Go back. It was among the first couple of slides.
On the first couple slides? Well, we're not aware of any nonprofit components associated with this project. Perhaps the applicant might be able to clarify that question.
Are they here?
Yes.
I believe the ordinance addresses nonprofits, but this is not a nonprofit business. But it's including nonprofits as part of the definition is the way I
Oh, was
understand.
it in the, it was part of the definition, you're right. I'm sorry, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and then the other, slide 13, you flipped it so fast. The waste, trash, okay, double bag and picking up twice per week and move. The other facilities where I've taken my personal pet, I noticed there were residents that complained about how the business, when they would wash down the cement, the area where the dogs did their business, it was washed down into the street. And it created issues evidently for the neighbors as it ran down the side. How would you be cleaning the premises where the dogs relieve themselves? And then what type of disposal, how is that, how do you handle that from being an issue?
Sir, why don't you come forward and answer those questions? Well, since it's business.
Thank you for the question, Vice Mayor. The original plans that were submitted did have the outdoor relief area handled, designed that way. However, in working collaboration with the City Planning Department, we resubmitted new plans and we use what's called a canine grass that's specifically made for this use that includes removing the asphalt and including drainage rock and proper installation of the canine grass so that this is absorbed into the ground underneath. And we use a solution called Rescue, which is essentially a hydrogen peroxide. So it's approved in the state of California, which is a reason that we changed what was used prior to this project. It was done when we were approved in the state of California and designed specifically for the state of California, where it's approved by the EPA, and it's non-toxic and safe for the environment and safe for the pets. So the design has changed so it does not run off into the city sewer system.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you for the information, and I appreciate the tenacity of the people who are applying because it's been a long process. But I just wanted to make one comment on the acoustical analysis, because in your slide, you just said, they don't have to do it because of the cost, and I don't know if there was some other thing, but in the planning commission meeting, there was a whole lot of evidence of how the owner had tested the acoustics in a lot of different places, and it wasn't just that, you said, oh, you don't need to do it because it costs too much. So I just wanted to say there was a lot behind that decision not to require the acoustical analysis.
Yes, see, Councilmember Stockton?
Yes, I motion to approve.
Well, I still need to open up to the public, so I'll come back to you on a motion. I'm going to open up to the public for any comment. Seeing none, I will accept your motion.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much, and wish you the best, and I think this will be a nice amenity for our community. So just keep the dog barking to a minimum. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to item 12A.
Item 12A is the Markham Callan Neighborhood Plan, and Demir Powell, Associate Planner, will be doing the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Carley, members of the council, and all those in attendance. With me is Ryan Lester. He's the project manager with Mintier Harnish, who are the consultants assisting us with the project. In 2024, the city allocated funding to create a neighborhood plan for the Markham Callan area. The project kicked off in January 2025 on a tight one-year schedule, and adoption of the plan is tentatively scheduled for January 2026. The neighborhood plan is a community-driven action plan for the area. Unlike a specific plan, it is not a regulatory document, but serves as a guide for improving the neighborhood to address the goals and needs of the community. The plan includes a vision for the community derived from community input, as well as a recommended action plan for enhancing community facilities, supporting residents, and celebrating and enhancing the community character. The plan is not recommending amendments to the general plan or zoning code. The plan area includes the Markham Avenue neighborhood, which is here above East Monte Vista Avenue, including Trower Park, the Rocky Hill Trail, the Boys and Girls Club, among other neighborhood assets. The Callan Street neighborhood is south of East Monte Vista here. And it also includes this strip of East Monte Vista from the Lucky Supermarket to the Nugget Supermarket. Our scope of work was structured similarly to the general plan, beginning with existing conditions and identification of issues and opportunities, followed by developing a vision and drafting a recommended action plan. Extensive community engagement was conducted for 7 months, from February to August, to ensure the community's needs and desires are documented and addressed, and also to receive feedback on the development of the plan throughout the process. We're currently nearing the end of the process. The draft is available for public review, and we are excited to receive feedback from the council as well as any comments from the community. The full plan includes 2 reports. We crafted an existing conditions workbook that looked at some of the available data on demographics, economics, mobility, and a number of other topics to provide a comprehensive understanding of the area. The Issues and Opportunities report identifies the community's challenges, assets, and ideas that we heard throughout our engagement activities. The input we received was categorized into 6 topics shown on screen. The intent was to connect the issues and opportunities for improvement so that the report would serve as a bridge between the input and the final recommended actions. Throughout the project, all deliverables were reviewed by a technical advisory committee consisting of city staff from various departments. The TAC provided input and comments and helped craft recommended actions that are practical, implementable, and substantial to achieve the community's vision and goals. As we previously mentioned, this plan was intended to be a community-driven effort. with extensive outreach to try and hear from every resident, business, and organization involved in the area. We worked hard to be creative in our outreach, incorporating yard signs, social media, online outreach, and we also went door to door to businesses and homes to hand out flyers, inform them about the plan, and encourage them to participate. We held numerous events in the community. We held a workshop for the community as well as a small business owner open house. We facilitated pop-up events at various locations in the area, such as Mexico Meat Market, Trower Park, Lucky's, and the Rocky Hill Trail. We attended community events, such as the Markham Neighborhood Association Party, and we also facilitated a successful cleanup day, which is one of the ongoing implementation actions in the plan. And here are some photos of various events, activities, and a comment board that we were using for feedback. As a part of the plan, we documented 6 opportunity sites. We documented 6 opportunity sites with potential for future additional development. These represent sites that were indicated to be underutilized but have the potential for future development or enhancement. The goal was to identify both the sites and what potential future uses might be suitable if the existing uses were to vacate, redevelop, or improve the parcel. Several of the sites include underutilized areas near Rocky Hill Trail that could be serve as additional opportunity areas for connections between the trail, Trower Park, and the De Colores Park. For each site, we provided recommendations for potential uses should the current use vacate or redevelop. And these are based on public input for desired land uses, the site size, the current general plan and zoning designations, existing structures on the site context within the greater neighborhood area, and compatibility with adjacent development. Site 5 is the Boys and Girls Club, and that is located here in this area. And we did receive substantial input that a similar future use would really be desired by the community. The Boys and Girls Club will be relocating out of the planned area, but the community would like to see additional youth supporting uses here. It also could be considered for development of additional housing. Our general land use recommendations for each site are summarized in the table, and it should also be noted that not all sites were included because we assume the site will be redeveloped. For example, Site 2, which is located here, was included because there's a lot of extra space that could be utilized in different ways for the community, such as a sports field or other community space that would provide additional opportunity for the community to utilize that space. A vision statement was drafted based on the community input. We structured several engagement activities to capture the shared values and vision of the residents in the planned area and condense them into a single statement. The statement represents an idea of the community's future and serves as a guide for the recommended action plan, and all actions and policies included in the plan align with this vision statement. Following the vision, the plan includes goals organized by topic and recommended actions to work to achieve the goals. Recommended actions are structured as policies which guide future decisions and programs which are actions to undertake. The next 2 slides summarize the goals and recommended actions under each topic heading. The focus of community character was to improve the physical appearance and the feel of the community. Policies and programs for this category are focused on capturing the distinct culture of the community, improving the design of community spaces and commercial frontages, facilitating the development of opportunity sites, and aiding in the maintenance and rehabilitation of older housing development. Community facilities is centered on improving and enhancing the public realm and supporting private community gathering places. This improves not just the design, but increases how much the community can benefit from these facilities. A significant aspect of this is Rocky Hill Trail, which can be enhanced with art placed along the trail, events, cultural themes, lighting, and other features. For economic development, we suggested several actions to support small businesses. It also includes cultural events, markets, artisans, makers, and home-based businesses. These range from business and workforce mentorship to financing and educational resources. As for transportation and mobility, this focuses on enhancing public safety, encouraging safe pedestrian facilities, and supporting active and public transportation. There are opportunities to improve the multimodal transportation in this area so people can get around with a variety of means and methods. For community health, we suggest actions that work to make it easier to access a healthy lifestyle by improving access to food, expanding opportunities for active transportation modes, and addressing displacement pressures. Finally, for local services, it works to support the expansion of services available in the planning area. Quickly, to demonstrate how neighborhood plans and their policies and programs can lead to substantial changes in action, here are some examples of neighborhood plans and implementation programs from other communities. The Richmond, California Yellow Brick Road Neighborhood Plan primarily targets infrastructure improvements for pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, but it also includes a vision for art and improved streetscape design. It was adopted in 2011, and they mentioned it is a model that can be replicated in other neighborhoods in the city. In 2012, they received an environmental justice grant from Caltrans for $243,000 to implement and build improvements from the plan. In 2015, they received an additional $6.2 million active transportation program grant from Caltrans. And in 2017, they received an additional $4.1 million in funding, including the California Natural Resources Agency, to create green streets with trees and plantings. And in 2021, construction began to redesign and rebuild 25 intersections in the neighborhood. In Mountain View, California, they have a facade improvement program which assists businesses with up to $17,500 in improving storefronts and streetscapes. They provide guides and materials in English and Spanish, and it helps to attract and retain tenants as well as attract additional customers and visitors to the area. In Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they have the Greater Hazelwood Neighborhood Plan. It contains similar programs as to what we propose in the Mark and Callan Neighborhood Plan, addressing topics like educational resources for homeownership and entrepreneurship, youth services, improving the design of public spaces and community gathering areas, promoting community gardens, and many other features. They provide an online tracker also showing the implementation status of each of the programs and policies. So these are aspirational communities to look to as to what we can achieve with this plan and possibly others in Vacaville. A study session was held on October 21st with the Planning Commission, and they had comments regarding the opportunity site selection, how to support businesses, funding for this area, and youth-serving land uses, but generally feedback from the commission was positive. To conclude, in early 2026, a final revised draft will be presented to the City Council for final adoption, and staff recommends that the City Council receive the informational presentation. And we are available to answer any questions or comments.
Thank you for the presentation. I know this has been a long work in progress to get to this point, and tonight the goal is to receive the input and the feedback so that you can come back to the council at a later date. So I'll start with Councilmember Silva.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, long time coming as far as like when this was first, like the concept was first pitched. I think one thing that I've seen and encouraged to advocate for is how do we activate areas that have commonly been have its own unique challenges. And I think so what I've seen in different cities throughout the United States and throughout the world is really using the opportunities to really transform and use the unique human capital that exists within given areas to really flip that, to use that to be a economic driver. And so for a lot of folks, just kind of gathering all that different input, I appreciate how this plan gets pretty close to at least providing a guideline or a blueprint, but just a guidance in labeling and specifying here's what the community is looking for and how they best can activate and engage the area. So I think that there's just a couple things, there's a few things I just want to generate. And so I really appreciate, working with the feedback from the community. Just some small things. Will the final copy have an update? So I'm looking at the actual report and the attachments on page 3. There's a map of the planned boundary. And some of the designated spots are no longer in business. Will those be updated or replaced with maybe more up-to-date spots? Will that be updated for the final approval?
Yes, we can
Okay.
update them.
And then just another item, and I think it gets a little, my comments can be probably for a different document or effort, but I am in past experiences or past proposals, this area is already well over the limit of liquor license for liquor stores. And that's something that's been observant, particularly by our children, and saying, hey, how can we have many places to buy liquor? And it's pretty apparent. So I would expect that process to where staff particularly enforce and council enforces the ordinance that we have in place to limit those issuing new liquor license if when those come up to be. I know some in this situation, a lot of them are grandfathered in. As well as, and this doesn't go just for this area, but anytime we have vacant lots or vacant buildings, and I don't know how it would fit into this particular plan, but looking at how we activate that in a positive way to where it's not underutilized space that someone can start up their small business and put it to some type of good use versus kind of being a place that's gonna be inviting for a lot more neglect from people. So. On page 11 of on slide 11, one of the things, if we could flip to that, one of the things I just want to emphasize and was emphasized on slide 15, as well as in the report, but on that bullet point number 3, talking about programming that increases physical and social connections, I really want to emphasize that really the driver when I'm talking to folks out there, the bottom line isn't like politics and this and that and all this stuff that a lot of folks get caught up. It's, can I afford to put food on the table? Can I afford to shelter my family? That is the driver. The ability to be affordable, and how do they help support the people within their community, their family in their community, their culture within their community. I'm hearing that. I'm happy to hear different cultures throughout our town ask for more cultural celebrations. So when I'm telling them, like, we've Parks and Rec tried an International Culture Day, and I'm like, it would be nice if people, showed up. But it's nice to hear that issue and that desire to connect us as one is being expressed, especially with a lot of the negativity that's going on, that a lot of us are hearing or privy to, I guess. But I think the key there isn't it's not just about making money. It's really about how do we activate spaces, through, and that's the whole purpose of the De Colores Parker concept behind that. It's not just the park, it's the area, it's the space in itself, allows people to celebrate life and culture while allowing for opportunities for economic development. Allows for that to be a catalyst to truly transform this area. One of the impetuses for this plan was that we see throughout the nation that lower income areas are going to get redeveloped. The question is, how do we protect our existing residents that are positive contributing members of our community? How do we take care of them and look after them while still allowing for that redevelopment? And when we redevelop, how and what do we redevelop? It's particularly if we're going to increase the population in given areas. So I think that this plan really helps capture that to many pieces. One thing that's also been expressed, and it's on it's specified as the People's Garden. So that community garden has been a great resource for people just to escape and kind of feel that connection to more of nature. So that's why I'm, in a past item, that's why I was really particular about protecting that open space feeling, because I think people underappreciate when you're just surrounded by buildings and and whatever's going on within those walls. The more you can just feel connected to nature and space and air, and it allows people to transform their mental and physical health. So two last items, I just got to throw out there but a community meeting space is really key. So I can't remember if I remember specifying that. If assuming the Montoya Community Center goes through, that can serve as that community meeting space. But allowing for accessible community space is really key. The school traditionally has kind of been that site, but that's kind of been a challenge depending on what's going on. But some type of public meeting space, I think, is really key to foster that, as well as, and I know that Montoya Center is there, but Quinceañeras has been a big thing that we still haven't quite captured a space within this region. So I usually often recommend the Cultural Center or the Senior Center for those particular efforts. So, but overall, I really appreciate all the effort and feedback. And I know those more points than questions, but I'll just thank you.
No, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and open up to the public for any comment or feedback.
I have to tell you who I am. You know by now who I am, and I know who you are. I'm trying to get to know you better. But I want to say, first of all, I applaud you for all of you for coming up with this plan. I think it's a marvelous, very promising plan for the community, not just Markham. And I know, Mr. Silva, I believe you represent that area, and you are doing a fantastic job. So keep it up, okay? But again, the other thing I want to say to you, and I want to share something historical, if I may, very briefly. If I know anything about Charles Edwin Markham, who lived in Lagoon Valley, and he was, I have to tell you, quite a guy. I've learned a lot from him, and I never met him, but he was the Christian socialist, and I'm not telling you to become socialist, but I don't believe in that. I believe in democracy, our form of government. But I'm going to tell you this, that he would have been proud of all of you, that you're thinking about Markham. Neighborhood that's named, I think it's named after him, or the school, whatever, or the street, whatever. There's a lot of places named after him. Anyway, but the other thing I want to throw out to you, think about it. I'm not telling you to change the government. I'm not into that. If it works, don't fix it. But if it does, if it can use some improvement, that's what these discussions are about, right? At the city council level. And I would say to you, based on my experience, you might think about, I know you always appoint commissions to work on the neighborhood level and to come up with ideas, advice, and all. But think about also what I know it works really well, neighborhood boards. They will be fantastic to give you more advice. And there are people like you, and I'm thinking in particular of the model that's has been implemented for decades in Honolulu, Hawaii. And I served in one of those boards many decades ago. And I can tell you, they are fantastic for giving you advice. If you want to know what's going on there, they're the people that you can work with too. Yes, it's good that you're reaching out to all the community, because everybody has to say, and not all of us see the truth, right? Always complete. But anyway, we all have our version of the truth, what's out there and what we see and hear, and it changes. But think about it. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Great.
I'm going to be brief. I think Demir did a fantastic job. I do want to thank Demir and Ryan, and also Will from NTA Harnish. As the chair of the Markham Neighborhood Association, the association worked closely with them, and they were a delight to work with. We appreciated all of their input and help and reaching out to the community. Thank you. You were really great. I just hope that you guys will take this to heart. There's a lot of things that are really needed, and it's important for the community. Councilmember Silva mentioned the garden. That is very important to the community. We're also very aware that there's issues with the space, but whatever we can do to further that would really be helpful. And keeping something like the Boys and Girls Club. Not all of our kids have parents who drive. And that was a prime location for kids to walk from Markham Elementary to the Boys and Girls Club and get served. They're not going to be able to do that with it being over on Peabody Road. So we would really like to see kids who can't go to the other location served in some manner in that location or any other location in the area. I think that's it, although I'd like to tell Mr. Valdez that they worked with the Markham Neighborhood Association, which is like a neighborhood board, and we were very appreciative of that. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, and thank you for serving on one of our earliest neighborhood associations. I think that this really does help bring the community together, so thank you. I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment and bring it back. I know that this is about directing staff to revise and address any feedback. I will say that this is well prepared, clearly well thought out. I mean, you could apply this model to other areas that may be disadvantaged in the city in the future. So this should be a roadmap for how we can do things so that at times this council will turn over. But the same way we look at strategic planning, being very specific that we've done this deep dive, we don't have to reinvent it in other locations. And in some cases, it's just revising, checking in on how are we doing. So I commend you for that. I don't see any revisions. As far as addressing anything, the only other thing that I would say is it's nice being able to identify locations of potential activations. Clearly, I think the public understands the city's not in the business necessarily of controlling private lands. But what this does do is it helps staff through council direction to say, but what about that site if an opportunity came available? And so I think that that's good to be on there. Realistically, the church might say, don't be looking at our church. But the reality is a neighborhood association might be communicating with the church and saying, what can we do together? So I think that this spurs the opportunity for being creative as well, so thank you. And then my last comment is I used to sit on the board for the Boys and Girls Club when I was the chief, and I do appreciate how those kids came from the neighborhood, and so I know that that's going to be a challenge, in that organization serves a greater population that really is broader than a neighborhood. And so I do agree with the public's comments on that. I also agree with the Planning Commission's comments on that. And I'm also aware that the two organizations that are really focused on working with kids and that have received funding from this council is the Boys and Girls Club and Levin Kids. And I would suggest that a good reuse of that site, if this is something that Levin Kids wants to do. I'm aware that they're in the area, but the site that they currently have, they likely are going to lose. So there could be an opportunity here, because they do work with at-risk youth after school in tutoring and supporting the families that don't necessarily have that. And so we have one on the south side of town. This might be a great opportunity to have one on the north side in that neighborhood. So that's just my comments. Councilmember Stockton?
Yes. Great comments from everybody. Thank you for the presentation. It's very clear when you read this packet that you reached out to a lot of people, that you put a lot of thought and effort into it. So for that, thank you, because we get packets sometimes and it's like you really got to dig to find the info that you want. I really like how you organized it. I don't need to repeat anything else. I think it's important that we have a really good plan for this community. This looks like a really good plan so far. I'm grateful to see on page 41 of your where it's local services goal 12 that you address some of the stuff with homelessness and providing services to those that are experiencing homelessness. I don't know if this is the right time, but I think it is important moving forward with a recommendation, on things to look into or continue to look into before this comes back. I heard a rumor that the storehouse might be closing. Is that accurate? Is that
storehouse?
The storehouse that provides food over on Monte Vista?
I hadn't heard that.
Okay, somebody came to me and advised that. I just think that I know city staff have looked at some of these vacant buildings for different opportunities that might be able to assist in this area. And I just want to, if that is something that is happening, I think that's something that we need to look into, because there's a large population of people that take advantage of that, service that's being provided to feed their families. And so I really appreciate that you put this in there. I know that we don't have an endless amount of money, but that being said, I do recognize that there are folks that are experiencing homelessness or at risk of becoming homeless in that area. Really appreciate that you put goal 12 in here, and would just encourage you or this plan to really continue to emphasize looking at some of those potential sites or potential solutions to provide access to some of those services, especially if they're being taken away. So thank you. That's it.
And Vice Mayor Chapman.
Thank you. Mayor, you had mentioned, you were speaking of the Boys and Girls Club and 11 kids. What about PAL, Police Activities League? I think at one time when they were having a youth summit, I was in attendance, and the site was mentioned because evidently they have a need for additional space to work with those youth. So I just wanted to add the Boys and Girls Club, the PAL.
I would absolutely concur with that. In fact, 11 kids in PAL have collaborated in a shared use space, so that may be a perfect opportunity. I hear you.
And to say, great report, the layout, everything. I appreciate it.
Councilmember Wiley?
Thank you for the information as well. It's very well laid out. I do have a question, because this looks like it goes through this year, and then you're going to bring back the final report to us. Will there be funding going forward for helping establish some of these things, or will that be something that will need to be discussed as whether it's added to the budget, since our district dollars have been disappeared? So do you know anything about that or how that fits in?
Yes, that will have to be determined at a later time after the adoption of the plan. We would like to use this plan to seek grant funding. We do have a couple grants that we've identified now as staff that we'd like to pursue using this plan that we think we'd be a good fit for.
Okay, thanks. But the funding for this will finish at the end of the year?
Correct.
Okay, good. And then I just wanted to address Councilmember Stockton's question. I did look at the Vacaville Storehouse website yesterday, because I had also heard something similar. And as of December 19th, they are no longer going to be there. They're going to merge with the food bank for the county. And it said that there would be weekly distributions at the facility on Horse Creek, like on Saturday. But that's what the website said. After December 19th, they're merging.
So they're no longer going to offer food there?
Not at the storehouse as of December 19th.
But elsewhere?
But at the Horse Creek Church, I think, on Saturdays. I know. But that's where they're partnering with the food bank, so whenever the food bank is handing things out as well.
Thank you for the clarification.
Well, that's all that we have so far. Great presentation. The feedback should be fairly clear. I do think that it's clear that the neighborhood wants that city property activated, and maybe there's a collaboration between 11 kids and in PAL and others to see how something might work, because that's been there for a long time. Most people don't realize that used to be a 7-Eleven. And I don't think, now that we have that's right. That's right. You remember. So yeah. So with that, this is by simple motion. So do I have a motion? And this is a simple motion to also take the feedback and any update and bring it back to council.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. I think Councilmember Stockton second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll move on to item 12B.
Item 12B is resolutions approving negotiated terms of successor memorandum of understandings with various bargaining units and compensation and benefits for department heads, the city manager, and the city attorney, and other necessary actions in relations to these approvals. We have HR Director Jessica Bose and Finance Director Ken Matsumiya to do the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Tonight, we're bringing successor MOUs and agreements to you for approval. Next slide. The following memorandum of understandings and agreements expired on 10/31 of 2025. The following groups cover about 580 employees. While some of the items discussed also cover the city manager and city attorney, both have their own individual employment agreements that supersede any of the items listed. Next slide. The process is a data-driven one where we look at things like comparable agencies through a total compensation study, the CPI, we look at recruitment and retention issues that we have across the city. The team receives union proposals from all of the bargaining units. And we also, of course, look at the city budget. We are deficit spending, so this is a delicate balance of recruiting and retaining the best talent and being mindful of our budget. The negotiating team receives direction from the council after the data is presented, and then we meet with the groups and keep council updated throughout the process and until we get total tentative agreement with the groups. Then we bring those items to you like we are tonight for final approval and implementation. So going over the terms and conditions, they are all detailed in the strike-through attachments to the staff report. Each MOU now is attached with the strike-through version, so it's easy to see any changes that are being made. So for all the groups, the following apply, including the city manager and city attorney, but again, the individual employment contracts supersede. So it's a 2-year term from November 1 of 2025 to October 31 of 2027. Again, this is giving a little stability in a time where we're watching our budget, but it does help to have a bit longer contract. We only had 1-year contracts leading up to this point with most of our groups. There is a cost of living adjustment effective November 1st of 2025 of 2%, and a one-time lump sum non-pensionable cash payment of $1,000 per employee. That applies to everyone other than the VFA employees, Vacaville Firefighters Association. Another 2% COLA effective November 1, 2026. To continue that, all the groups will receive an increase in tuition and student loan reimbursement by $200 a year. We are adding back in an opt-out option for health insurance, hoping that can save the city some money as well. For people that don't need health insurance through the city, they can get a small lump sum amount per month rather than picking up our insurance if they can show that they have other approved insurance. And the ability to use sick leave for baby bonding is going to be changed in one of our city policies. For VMO, VCA, Local 39, and AMG, there is a new vacation tier of 25 days after 20 years of service with the city. This is to make this consistent with what some of the other groups already have. I would like to make a note on this slide as well. There were a couple of corrections made to the staff report after it was first posted, one of which was the amount of the opt-out provision, the health opt-out provision, the $250 is correct. AMG was also left off the list in the staff report for the new vacation tier originally. Both those items were corrected and reposted prior to tonight's meeting. For VMO specifically, they're receiving notary public certification pay for up to 4 employees in specified departments that need the notary ability at $185 a month. Management oversight pay for specific city sponsored events like Merry Mitten on Main, 4th of July, and any city-sponsored funeral. This would allow employees that are there for management oversight and take that extra time for those events to be covered for up to 10 hours per year per employee. Court overtime for our communications manager and dispatch will be covered, and an increase in shift differential for the communications supervisors to $240 per pay period. There's also an increase in administrative leave from 10 to 13 days per year. Again, this is to make it consistent, and you'll see it applies to several groups. For VCA, our City Employees Association, an increase in city paid life insurance from a $50,000 policy to a $75,000 policy. A reduction in the number of vacation days they're required to take off in the prior year to be eligible for cash out in the next year. Court overtime for CSOs and evidence technicians is added. An increase in standby pay for evidence techs up to $175 a week from the prior $70. For Local 39, there's to match VCAs, an increase in the life insurance policy from $50,000 to $75,000, an increase in safety boot allowance to $315 per year, an increase in meal allowance when an employee is called back into work with no notice. It's a meal reimbursement policy that doesn't get utilized that often, but if somebody is called into work early, they do have now up to $20 to spend on a meal. For POA, our Police Officers Association, it's increasing the senior officer program, the level 2 and 3 from 6 and 11 to 7 and 12% respectively. They'll be covered for portal-to-portal overtime pay when called out on a mutual aid incident that is reimbursable. This is the same language that our police managers group currently has. For Firefighters Association, it's a similar increase in their senior firefighter program. It does impact all 3 levels for them, going from 2.5, 6, and 7 to 3.5, 7, and 12. Employees that are promoting from a firefighter classification to a firefighter paramedic classification will be placed in the same step in the new classification as they were in the prior, so that they see the full 12.5% increase for obtaining that paramedic license. VFA has chosen to waive the $1,000 lump sum cash benefit for each employee for commitment by the city to send 2 current firefighters to paramedic school. This will likely happen in the calendar year 2027. For Fire Managers Group, there's an increase in the administrative leave from 10 to 13 days for their day shift employees and from 4 to 7 shifts for their 24-hour shift employees. This again is making it consistent with other groups. You'll see it throughout this presentation. An increase in the day shift differential for the BAT chiefs from 5 to 7.5%, and an increase in education pay from 2.5% to 5% for an associate's and 5 to 7.5% for a bachelor's degree. For department heads, there's an increase in the maximum vacation accrual cap to 400 hours and cash out of 120 hours once per year, and the same increase in administrative leave from 80 to 104 hours as we saw before. Also creating an expense reimbursement for team building, department development, and morale building activities in the departments. Our larger departments are up to $5,000 and the smaller departments for $2,500. As usual, we have some cleanup language where we have corrections to spelling or grammar, clarification, or title changes. We're also bringing tonight the pay schedule that reflects these increases or any changes. Per Government Code Section 20636, we are required to have a publicly adopted pay schedule at a regular council meeting. And we're hitting goal number 4 and initiative 4C on our strat plan for these items tonight. The fiscal impact is $1.98 million for the current fiscal year, 7.37 over the full term, primarily general fund, but there are some employees that are allocated to other funds. And all the costs include any roll-ups for our future liabilities. With that, I would like to thank the bargaining unit representatives and their teams for always conducting a very friendly negotiations, and even if we don't agree, they're always respectful. I appreciate that. I would also like to take the chance to thank my HR manager, Dimple Patel, who does all the real work when it comes to this, so she's here tonight. And by simple motion, we'll recommend that the council adopt subject resolutions.
Well, thank you for the presentation to the public. More so, the council has been briefed along the way. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up to the public for any comment. Seeing none, I'll go ahead and bring it back. Councilmember Ritchie.
Thanks, presentation.
A second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you very much. Thank you to the staff and to all the departments and their groups. It's always important to work through this, and so I'm grateful that it was cordial. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to item C.
Item 12C is a presentation of fiscal year 24-25 general fund financial results, a 25-26 general fund quarter 1 budget update, and a resolution considering the budget augmentation to the operating budget. And tonight we have Finance Director Ken Matsumiya, Assistant Director Leslie Hoover, and Budget Manager John Collette.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the council. Tonight, we will be presenting the year-end results for fiscal year 25, and then we'll move into fiscal year 26, first quarter budget update. The following slide shows the fiscal year 25 year-end projection back on May 27th. If council recalls, this was budget study session number 2. That's going to be the middle column on the chart to the right. And then how we actually ended the fiscal year, this is going to be the column to the right on the chart that says fiscal year 25 actuals. There were some assumptions during that May 27th council meeting, and those were that the revenues would exceed initial estimates by just over 5% or 5.5%, and that expenses were trending slightly higher than in previous fiscal years for services and supplies. Just below, we have the fiscal year 25 actual notes. Expenditures were in line with projections. One-time revenue for sales tax and Measure M was fairly significant for a large transaction earlier in the fiscal year. And then department charges and fees were up 4.3%. And last but not least, property tax was up 10% over fiscal year 24. During the May 27th council presentation, we were projecting property tax to be up by about 8%. But when we received our supplemental payment in June, it was more significant than we initially projected. So how did we fare? Looking at the chart to the right, we'll start with the projection, that middle column, starting at the top and working our way down. Operating expenditures and transfers out, that's going to be money leaving the bank. We're projected to be $152.3 million. Operating revenues and transfers in for the general fund, $125.1 million, and money coming in. Measure M revenues, $24.9 million, for a total of $150 million in revenue. If we net the expenditures and the revenues, we see a general fund deficit of $2.3 million. Again, that's projected. CIP, $4.4 million, for a total general fund deficit of $6.7 million. This would leave the general fund reserve at just under $43 million, or 29%, well above the 16 to 25% reserve policy, or 2 to 3 months of operational expenditures. And then the column to the right, how we actually fared. Operating expenditures and transfers out, money leaving the bank, $152.4 million. Operating revenues and transfers in, $128.9 million, $3.8 million more than projected. And then Measure M revenues were $26.2 million, $1.3 million more than projected. This left the general fund operational surplus at $2.7 million. And a CIP, $4.4 million, for a total deficit of $1.7 million, a $5 million swing to the general fund. General fund reserve ended at $49.1 million, or 33% for the fiscal year, 4% higher than we initially projected. We also want to note that the year-end results are preliminary figures, and they are currently being audited and confirmed by our auditors. Fiscal year 26 first quarter budget update. The trends are based on actuals through the first quarter, or for the first 3 months of the fiscal year, along with an updated sales tax estimate from our consultant, HDO. Sales tax accounts for approximately 34% of the city's general fund revenues. And for fiscal year 26, revenues came in at $13 million versus $12.2 million last fiscal year, about $800,000 more, or 6.6% increase over fiscal year 25. Just below that green line, we have sales tax and Measure M separated out. Sales tax, that blue column, was at $7.2 million versus $6.8 million last fiscal year, about a 6% increase. And then if we look at that yellow column for Measure M, they came in at $5.8 million versus $5.4 million last fiscal year. This is a 7% increase, or $400,000 over last fiscal year. Some of the key categories that HDL is projecting for fiscal year 26 are just below. That's that year-over-year change. These aren't actuals. These are estimates from HDL. Fuel and service station at 3.5% increase. Restaurants and hotels, a 2.1% increase projected. And then they are projecting building and construction to be down by about 1.5%. Other taxes, besides property sales and Measure M taxes, account for approximately 18% of the city's general fund revenues. Through the first quarter, revenues came in at $4.4 million versus $4.3 million last fiscal year, approximately 1.5% increase over the previous fiscal year. And as you can see from the chart, it's been fairly consistent since fiscal year 23 at about a 1.5% increase year over year. Categories included in the other taxes, these are more of the significant categories, are franchise, paramedic, TOT or transient occupancy tax, XCs, business license, and real property transfer taxes. And just below, we have the significant impacts for Q1. These are actuals, year-over-year changes. XCs taxes came in at 4.7%. TOT, or transient occupancy tax, which is related to local hotel stays here within the city, we're up 1.1%. And then real property transfer taxes, which is related to the buying and selling of real estate, is down 5.8% year-over-year. Department charges and fees, this is the last category that we'll look at tonight, accounts for approximately 9% of the city's general fund revenues. This category contains the charges and fees for all of our departments, with Parks and Recreation and the Fire Department fees being the majority of the revenue within the category. Through the first quarter, revenues came in at $3.8 million versus $3.6 million last fiscal year, a 5.5% increase. Some of those are the two significant impacts, Parks and Recreation and the Fire Department. For Parks and Rec, their actual revenues for the first quarter came in at $1.3 million versus $1.5 million last fiscal year, $200,000 decrease or 14.1% decrease. And while most of their programs and activities were slightly up or flat from fiscal year 25, there were three exceptions, youth sports and TGIF, which are two of their more significant revenue generators for the department. And then VPAT, Vacaville Performing Arts Theater, was down slightly. So while the overall revenue figure is down from last fiscal year, we still expect the department to hit their budgeted revenue figure by the end of the fiscal year. And then for the Fire Department revenue, they saw an increase of 10% through the first quarter compared to fiscal year 25. More specifically, their ambulance revenue came in at $2 million versus $1.6 million last fiscal year. And there's two reasons for the increase. The first, the department has seen an increase in medical transports. So as they transport more personnel, in theory, their revenue should go up. And then the second, if council recalls last fiscal year, the department had a significant write-down due to legislation that was enacted by the state requiring us to write down payments that would typically go to collections for non-payment. So this was one-time in nature. Overall, department charges and fees continue to trend positively through the first quarter, as you can see from the chart on the right. It's been fairly consistent since fiscal year 22, and we expect the trend to continue for the remainder of fiscal year 26. And that concludes first quarter revenue trends, and I will pass it over to Leslie for proposed budget augmentations.
Thanks, John. So we do have several augmentations for you tonight. The first one is for the city manager's office, and it is for a new agenda management software. The total cost of $30,000 with an ongoing cost of $26,000 and a one-time cost of $4,000. This will help significantly streamline agenda creation and the approval process. This system is expected to save approximately 18 hours per agenda, improve transparency along with public access. The second item we have for you is an additional funds for the Fire Academy that will be held here in the upcoming months. We initially included about $303,000 in the budget in anticipation of the Academy. However, to address recruitment challenges in the Fire Department is making changes to their hiring model by modifying the minimum job requirements for firefighter paramedic position, allowing the department to hire licensed paramedics who will complete their Firefighter 1 certification during the in-house academy. Thus, to accommodate the changes, the department will need to extend the duration of the academy from 18 weeks to 20 weeks. And so the increased cost is for overtime for internal instructors, and that is $20,000 in one-time funds. The next several items are for Public Works. The first one is for trash amendment compliance. This is a one-time request for $60,000. Back in 2018, the Public Works Department was working on our trash amendment goals for 2030, sorry. In order to maintain that, they need to continue with geocentric consultants to assist with technical updates. The next item is for streetlight repair at approximately $26,000, $27,000. Near Creekside Drive, there is a light that is inoperable due to damaged conduit. It is necessary repair for safety purposes, including installing new conduits and wiring, and along with fixing any repairs to concrete or asphalt that may arise. The next item is pool chemical expenses for our pool at Graham Aquatic Center. We have increased ongoing costs of $35,000. Public Works has been closely monitoring the cost of chemicals over the past few years. This increase is not unique to our agency. Other agencies are having similar issues. The challenges are persistent with supply chain issues and regulatory requirements. As a result, the pool chemicals have increased substantially and is expected to remain elevated in the foreseeable future. So that will be an ongoing cost. The next one is for the Graham Aquatic Center also, and it's for the slide restoration at a cost of $120,000. Now that we're in the winter months, this is the time that we need to do it while the slides are down. And then we also are facing another inspection by OSHA in summer, and so we need to get that slide repaired. The next one is HVAC repairs in the amount of $50,000, another one-time augmentation. Public Works' annual operating budget only supports routine and minor maintenance. At this time, we have 45 HVAC units across the city with over 25 years old, relying on outdated refrigerant, and they're no longer available. Many of these units have exceeded their useful life, which is leading to more emergency failures and situations where minor repairs are no longer feasible. This augmentation supports the necessary repairs and replacements of those units. The next one is for the Three Oaks Community Center and the McBride Center fire alarm panels. Similar to the HVA systems, these panels are outdated, and they've exceeded their useful life and no longer compatible, not compatible with cellular technology as they rely on old, obsolete analog platforms. This replacement is necessary to ensure continued safety and code compliance for both facilities. The last item we have on here is a reclass for the city attorney's office. It's for an existing assistant city attorney to a senior assistant city attorney. Over the past several years, the city attorney's office has expanded its capacity by adding attorneys and support staff to meet the growing legal demands. While this has strengthened their ability to provide the city with services, it has also created a structural imbalance with supervisory responsibilities and higher level guidance having been performed by an assistant city attorney in an out-of-rate capacity. The reclassification is necessary next steps to realign their internal structure to ensure there is appropriate leadership and oversight to support the department's timelines, quality, and overall effectiveness. There is no cost this year because it can be absorbed by salary savings, but the ongoing cost is just over $46,000. So overall, we have a one-time total of just over $410,000, and then ongoing costs just over $107,000. Next, I will turn it over to Ken.
Thanks, Leslie. So over the next several slides, we'll be going over updated 5-year forecasts. Next slide. And so this slide shows our notes or assumptions used for the updated 5-year forecast. A lot of these assumptions are going to be the same ones that we assumed back during budget adoption. I'll kind of point out the biggest changes. On the revenue side, we do have a new sales tax update that we received from HDL. That number is about, on average, when we go into look over the 5 years, is about $1 million lower per year than what we were assuming back in May, June, in that time period. With property tax, we haven't adjusted that number yet. You know, as John had mentioned, property tax did finish stronger in the prior year than we were anticipating. We'll get our first property tax distribution for this year in December. And so once we get those figures back in December, we'll have an updated forecast in mid-year, kind of reflecting sort of where those values and where that revenue is tracking. Overall, on the revenue side, it meant the last bullet point on the revenues mentioning that we're projecting the revenues are going to finish slightly like under 3% lower than last year. A lot of that has to do with what I'd mentioned with sales tax, with that projection being lower based off of the updated kind of analysis we received from HDL, and also the fact that last year did finish stronger than we were anticipating. So the fact that last year finished higher than expected, our projection for this year is that that's going to be, lower than kind of that strong finish we got last year. On the expenditure side, this forecast builds in the approved MOUs that were the last agenda item. It includes the budget augmentations that Leslie spoke about earlier. For fiscal year 26, which is the year that we're in, this assumes that the cost savings measures are only in place for a single year, and that going forward, despite the deficit spending, that is not, that we basically go back to business as usual, that those cost savings measures are no longer in place. The forecast also doesn't assume that currently we're in deficit spending. If that weren't the case, there are a lot of underfunded or unfunded items related to technology, equipment replacement, fleet replacement, things of that nature that we'll be talking about in more detail during the strategic planning sessions in January. But those items aren't built into this forecast as well. What this forecast has are the items that council has already approved and kind of the ongoing costs related to that. Next slide. So for the 5-year forecast, the columns represent our expenses, general fund and Measure M, and then the lines going across the chart are our revenues. And so in an ideal situation, what you want to see is that golden line going across the chart, which is your revenues are above your columns. As we know, that is not what we're projecting. We're actually projecting deficit spending. When we did this budget adoption, or the budget adoption forecast back in June, our assumption was that we would be on averaging about $9 million. Like that's the gap that we're looking to fill over the 5-year forecast. This updated forecast, that average over the 5 years is $13 million, and that has to do with a combination of things. Kind of the difference is the $1 million that we're losing on that sales tax revenue forecast being updated and being lower than projected, or being lower than what was assumed back in June. And then the MOUs being $3 million a year that's being added to the forecast. And that's why you jump from a $9 million average gap during budget adoption to tonight, where we're now projecting that's going to be $13 million on average. Next slide. And so the previous slide talks about our revenues and expenses. This slide is our reserves, again, assuming that the cost saving measures are only in place for a single year. In fiscal year 25, we finished better than we were thinking. We thought we would finish the year at 29% as a reserve, finished at $49 million or 33% reserve. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, our policy is that we be between 16 to 25%, with that goal being 20%. So at the end of 25, we're above that policy. At the end of this current year, we anticipate being within policy as well. And as you see in fiscal year 27, the projection is that we fall below policy level. You'll also see that, under that CIP row, as mentioned earlier, we're assuming that cost savings, it's only a 1-year thing, and that's why you have the CIP line, which would be additional money that we're putting in towards new projects, kind of built out over time, and you see what that does to the reserve under this scenario if revenues were not to improve. Next slide. So we also ran a scenario where if cost savings measures, the ones that we have in place for this current fiscal year, if those were to continue, so basically the 2.5% savings per department, no additional funding towards new projects and towards kind of our internal service funds, things of that nature. If we were to keep those cost savings measures going, what does that do to our reserve? As you can see, what that does is it does allow our reserve to carry for longer, to where at the end of next fiscal year, we would still be within kind of the bottom level of our policy at 16%. And then you still see, we're below policy, but you still see positive numbers on those outside years. And so although it allows the reserve to go longer, it doesn't change your trajectory. Like the fact is still that even if you had cost savings measures in place, we would still project deficit spending, and that is where we'll need to focus on the revenue side and revenue generation in order to close that gap. Next slide. So we focus a lot on the general fund. One of the items that was proposed as a cost savings measure does impact another department, another fund, and that's the community development department. And they aren't funded through the general fund. Unlike the general fund, community development relies heavily on fees. That is how they fund their services. And so historically, the general fund on average is kind of subsidized or contributed to the community development department in the range of $250,000 to $500,000 a year. As a cost savings measure, that was paused for this current fiscal year. because the department and its revenues are fee-based and so tied to development activity, there's a lot more volatility than there is with the general fund, where tax measures or with taxes, even if you have kind of a down year, for the most part, they stay flat or don't really fluctuate too much. And so the chart shows your columns, the gold columns, which are your operating revenues, blue columns are your expenses, and then the green line going across is your fund balance. And so as you can see, like during fiscal year 2021, fiscal year 22, 23, where you have strong revenue years, that's where the fund balance actually kind of it picks up. But then when you have years where the revenue is a lot less than our operating expenses, or a down year, 22, 23, 24, the fund balance falls drastically. And so as an example, from fiscal year 23 to 24, community development had a fund balance of about $3 million, or a 40% reserve. They lost about a third of that in a single year, and that kind of really speaks to the volatility that they have with their revenue source. And so, as I mentioned, unlike the general fund, it's not funded through tax measures, and so any sort of ballot measure or revenue generation we do through taxes would not fix community development's kind of revenue deficiencies. The only way that gets addressed is through the fee schedule or being updated, and that's going to be something that we'll be bringing to council the new calendar year. Next slide. So this slide is our budget timeline, just kind of previewing our upcoming meetings. Over the next several meetings, and really kind of from here on out, there are going to, with each council meeting, there will be an item where we're bringing forward related to revenue generation, kind of how do we close that deficit spending and that fiscal gap. And so starting with the next council meeting on December 9th, as council is aware, we've hired a consultant to look at our business license, kind of ordinance, and kind of our tax fees, our business license tax setup. We do have a very outdated model that I believe was put in place back in 1977. Our business license tax is based on an employee-based model, which is very different than kind of what you see in other jurisdictions that are more based on a revenue model. And so on December 9th, we'll be having a study session related to business licenses. We'll have HGL there as well to kind of speak about what you see in neighboring jurisdictions, our particular setup as well, to get council's kind of feedback on potential moving forward on one of kind of the options with addressing our business license tax structure. And so December 9th would be the study session. January 27th, about a month later, we'll be looking for kind of direction on ultimately what direction we want to go with the business license options. And in between January 16th and January 17th, we have our council strategic plan priority session. And then in February, we move into our Q2 budget update or mid-year update. Next slide. And so the recommendation for this evening is to approve the budget adjustments that Leslie mentioned earlier in the amount of $471,690 in the current fiscal year. Next slide. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation and all of your work to get to this point, to give us an update on where 25 lands. The official ACFR will come back at another time, I presume?
Yes, that's correct. We're going to be going through our audit in December, and then we anticipate issuing the ACFR kind of after that period of time, so between January and March, kind of being the far end on that as far as how late we would issue that in kind of the worst case scenario, but we'd be looking to issue it sometime between January through March.
And then the CFP funding that's paused for this next budget cycle, how much is that being paused? I mean, how much funding does that represent?
It's $250,000 currently.
All right. Thank you. Councilmember Silva?
Thank you for the overview. Happy Veterans Day, Mr. Colette. So quick question on I don't know if someone could elaborate a little bit more on the alarm systems. So I think it was 90 and 40,000. I don't know if that would be the finance department, another department. Just trying to clarify, is that a one-time cost? One-time cost, how long is that good for? And also how often, just seems like a lot. So just trying to clarify the justification for that cost. That also relates to how often are those alarms activated?
It is a one-time cost. As far as how long is it good for the useful life, I would have to defer to the Public Works Department on that piece.
As well as how often those alarms go off. Yeah.
There we go. It is one-time cost, as Leslie mentioned. The alarm systems are existing that are in those two facilities. Those are the original alarm systems. So the city has gotten a very high return on investment on those alarm systems because they're over 50 years old at this point. Typically, they will go somewhere between 30 and 40 years, but we've been able to really push the extents on this. The technology change, as mentioned in your staff report, going from analog to cellular has really been the big push. We've got to have it online so that it can be monitored, and at this point, we don't have that capability with those two systems.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you. I also had one question on the alarm system, so they might be able to answer. Just looking at the amounts for the two, you know, the Three Oaks is a lot more than the other. Is it just the size of the building and that's what determines it because it's so much a bigger building? Okay, thanks. And then if you could go back to slide 7, that talked about, you know, these augmentations, and a whole lot of them are in public works. And I just want to know if we wouldn't have had to cut the departments, the 20% that we did, would a lot of those have been able to be funded or not? Or are these just kind of unexpected one-time things?
Had we not done 2.5% cost savings and mainly the CIP of the 2.5 million, a lot of this stuff would have been, the one-time stuff would have been pulled in to the annual CIP process.
So this is, if you look at, if we hadn't made any cuts, these wouldn't have been necessary.
Maybe not so many of them.
Right, right. And so then you talked, Ken, about having the one chart with keeping the costs ongoing. Is that a decision that we'll make when we talk about the strategic plan, but you just wanted to show us what it would be like if we did make that? But currently, there's not a plan to continue the cuts, is that correct?
Correct. So the way that we do our forecasts, it's based off of the direction that we received during budget adoption, which was that the cost savings measure would only be in place for a single year and then kind of be reevaluated. And so to answer your question, that would be something that during the strategic planning session and going forward into the next year's budget, we'd be looking for direction from council on if we want to continue those cost savings measures, given the deficit spending.
And then a question on the streetlight repair, because people call in when the streetlight's not working. Am I still on? Because there it goes. People call in when the streetlight's not working, and usually I guess they could just replace the bulb, but there was something because the conduit and everything else was wrong with this particular streetlight, but we don't anticipate other streetlights having similar issues. Is that correct?
And not at this time.
All right. And then one other thing that's not in here, but I just wanted to ask about, was the unfunded liability, because as one cost-saving measure, we stopped paying the extra. We were paying what's required. And so I just wonder, since salaries keep going up, are we going to get really hurt by not paying any extra, since it seems like it'll be adding up faster because of increased salaries?
Yeah, yes, I think we're talking about the pension and kind of the making the extra payments there. I mean, any amount you can put, any extra principal payment you can make is going to help on interest costs. As far as whether the MOUs that were approved this evening are going to increase the unfunded liability, that's less straightforward, just because with the actual reports, they assume that wages are going to go up. And so if you kind of ignore investments and things of that nature, as long as the wage increases that were approved and actually occur through the city is within what the actuary assumes wages are going to increase by, then the unfunded liability wouldn't go up.
Okay, so that's assumed, it's assumed, annual raises are kind of assumed.
Yes, CalPERS does assume that.
Okay. And then the other question, I'm not sure I can really ask it correctly, but at the beginning when you were talking about here's what it is and here's what we expected it to be and here's what it, will probably be going forward, didn't we get like a big extra amount? I mean, you mentioned that in one slide, but then it kind of got lost on all the other slides. So that was a big impact in what our budget looks like now because of getting that. And so what it looks like going forward next year is probably what we would have been this year without that. Is that correct?
Yes, we got a $7 million kind of one-time sales tax amount in the last fiscal year, and so that is not assumed at all going forward. And so if it was not for that $7 million, I think the very first chart kind of showed that we would have a surplus prior to any capital funding of 2.7, that would have been a deficit as well if it wasn't for that $7 million.
Right, so that's just, we just all need to remember that where it looks good is because of that one-time extra thing. All right, thank you, those are my questions.
Councilmember Ritchie.
All right, thank you so much. I really just have just one question, but a lot of comments. As I was reading the report over the weekend, and thanks for the amazing job. As I see, like, the only thing I default to is exactly what you said, and Mayor Carley said about the next session. We'll talk about revenue generation. I already went there because we got to deal with the hand we have. And as I'm reading it, I see expenses, see the revenue. How can we take what we have and make it better, and work that we have, make it more efficient, make it work? And when you talked about the 34% of the income comes from sales tax revenue. Another portion, large portion, obviously, is property tax, which we'll talk about in the East of Leadertown growth opportunity. But when I looked at Vacaville and I started looking at those numbers, 34% is a lot of money. How do we make that be more efficient? You know, the Zagat report, travel companies, everywhere in Northern California focus on coming to Vacaville on the weekends to factory outlets. People come here in droves to spend money. We are one of the lowest sales tax cities in the whole region. So people are coming here to spend money, patronize our city for products that factory outlets are cheaper for those Nikes or Adidas or lacrosse shoes. The cost of the product is cheaper and the tax rate is cheaper. So that made me think, like, if we increase people coming and spending more, and with that tax rate and the sales rate, if we can get both those to increase, the amount of money, it was $158 million our budget a year, right? If we can just increase 3 or 4% of traffic to come to Vacaville, spend more money on sales tax, it's going to increase the revenue. Also, I remember last year we had to think about Visit Vacaville, or the Downtown Business District said only 8% of Vacaville patronizes downtown on a regular basis. Like, that number keeps sticking to me. Like, we were 100,000 people. If we just activate more of Vacaville to be a part of Vacaville and not kind of look at Vacaville as a veteran community, but as a great community. We talked about the MOUs, the budgets we increased, but it all works together. Having safe and clean streets invites people to stay here, feel safe, and spend money, have fun. That's an asset. If we can get more people to come out of their houses, a veteran community, and to commute, to spend money in our city, like, the revenue we will create will offset a lot of these problems. And it keeps going back to how can we create more revenue. The only question I had is the HVAC. If we're gonna spend money on HVAC, I really hope that we're only using companies that are from Vacaville, that the workers are Vacaville, so that their time off, they spend money at the local restaurants and food. But, like, I would hate for us to upgrade all this HVAC and have a company from Sacramento come because they bid $20 cheaper. I want to make sure that we support Vacaville, spend money, gas, food, and have fun here when you're working all around our city. And that's really it. I just want to focus on that issue and trying to make sure we really make the best of what we have, and maybe reinvest in a little bit of Vacaville, show people, hey, come here. It's not as a veteran community, it's a great community. And if people spend more time making Vacaville sticky, we have a lot of great things downtown as we're doing, like spend money here. I think we should spend a little more money on advertising how amazing it is, and we'll make more money in the long run. So that's it.
I will open up to the public for any comment on this item.
Plan on that, but that horrified me. You want to raise sales tax. You can't raise it just on the people that are coming here from other places. You're going to raise sales tax on everybody that lives here. We got a lot of people out there barely making it now. I wouldn't advise doing that.
Thank you. All right, I'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the council. I believe most of the comments have been made. So with that, do I have a motion?
A motion to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Thank you very much. Appreciate all the hard work, and this is it's good information to have, so thank you. All right, we'll move on to our last item, item D.
Final item is the draft land use plan and status update for the East of Leisure Town Growth Area specific plan. And Senior Planner Albert Eno is here to make the presentation.
Good evening, Council. Happy to be your closer for tonight. With me, I have Kathy Pease, a contract planner that's helping the city along with this project. And the item before you tonight is a status update on the draft land use plan for the East of Leisure Town specific plan. Some background on this, light background. In April 2024, the city initiated this process to work with 3 landowners in the East of Leisure Town growth area to start the process for developing a specific plan. On the map on to the right of the screen, we have 2 main growth areas that were identified in the general plan in 2015. So we'll be talking about directly the East of Leisure Town on the bottom right-hand side of the map. We came to City Council in June of 2025 to seek some direction before we move forward with the draft land use plan. And Council provided some direction on park sizes, the affordability of housing, and the alignment of Carroll Way throughout the plan. Since June, we've been working with the landowners to develop and refine a land use plan that could be circulated for public review. And so that's the discussion for tonight, is to showcase that land use plan and then share the next steps that's going to be going on with the project. A reminder about the East of Leisure Town growth area. The specific plan, well, the entire growth area is comprised of 17 acres, 1,317 acres. There are 648 of those acres are still in Solano County. This specific plan boundary will cover 508 acres of the landowners. Those are the project landowners that have solicited to develop a project. There are 93 acres that are not part of an actual land plan. They're non-participating property owners, and the map on the right of the side of the screen shows those 3 landowners with the bulk of 508 acres, and then the other non-participating properties at 93 acres. These graphics are intended to display the land use plan. On the left-hand side is the top side of the land use plan that shows the Raisins and Donaldson project with a variety of different housing, parks, open space, and then mixed-use development on the bottom left-hand side. The right map depicts the A&P Children's property that's located at the corner of Fry Road and Leisure Town Road. That one also including a couple of smaller parks, a variety of residential housing, and a mixed-use site at the corner of Fry and Leisure Town Road. This development summary table was provided in the staff report, shows the bulk of housing types would be in the residential medium and residential medium high, with around 2,400 of those units would be within those categories. Those are the missing middle types of housing. So the bulk of the residential development that is anticipated to occur with this draft land use plan would be within those other categories, with some other secondary roundups being within the residential high density at 872 units, and then residential low, medium, and low, which would probably be your traditional single-family detached development at 620 and 57. There's a plan for, I think it's 13 acres of mixed-use development with a variety of acres of parks, open space. There is an 11-acre school site that's being reserved as part of this, and then a variety of acres dedicated for public right-of-way. So when a land use plan is completed and drafted up, there's a variety of different activities that have to occur as a follow-up. We use this draft land use plan as the basis for a variety of different technical standards. So there's still much work to do. For instance, we have to confirm that all the other areas of this plan would comply with the city's existing development standards, public works standards. We'll have to work on a variety of wastewater and water infrastructure analyses to determine what type of infrastructure has to be installed in order to be able to serve this project. We have to look at how the open space is going to be used and how pedestrians will be able to circulate and walk through this area. We'll be looking at how the parks and recreation facilities would be designed with the plan. There are some development agreements that would have to be worked on, business deal points that would probably be brought back to the city council at some point. We would really work with the developers on defining what missing middle housing looks like and the effects of any other regulatory documents by the change of this particular plan. And lastly, there is a fiscal impact analysis that would have to be done to see how it would actually hit the city's bottom line, and what other options would be in order to make sure that doesn't result in a negative impact to the city. That's a lot of stuff that we'll be covering, but this initial draft land use plan is just to showcase the work that's been done thus far. We do have some next steps that we're heading to now that we do have a draft land use plan. We are aiming to issue a notice of preparation for the start of the draft environmental impact report. The plan is to issue that notice on Friday, publish it on our website, and then send out a mailer to over 3,000 residents and other regulatory agencies that might be responsible for reviewing it. And the start of that would be on this Friday, and that public comment period will run until January 2nd. And the main point of all of this is that since we're starting this very heavy-duty technical analysis to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act, we need to hear from residents, we need to hear from responsible agencies, what do you anticipate should be evaluated, so that way we can cover everything. We plan to hold a scoping meeting that'll be hosted by the Planning Commission on December 16th at 6 o'clock here in this council chambers. And that would be mainly to collect comments, but also to provide a public forum for anybody who is interested in coming and talking about this project. The other thing that is on the horizon is another community meeting where we're going to, in addition to that Planning Commission meeting where we'll talk about the land use plan, but also receive comments, we intend to go back out to the community at the end of January, likely at the Ulatis Community Center, to hold a workshop sorts. We'll provide a presentation about that land use plan, but we'll also have a number of different stations where we're going to talk about transportation, parks and recreation, circulation for pedestrians. And really, that's going to be the opportunity where we get down into the dirt and we want to draw out what the public thinks about are the important components of this plan that we should really be focusing on. So it's an easy one tonight. We're recommending that the City Council just review the draft land use plan, accept our presentation, and update and receive any public comments, or even provide direction back to our staff here. That concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions, so is Kathy. We do have the landowners groups here who intend to comment during the public comment period, and they also have their own presentation that they'd like to share.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and open up to the public for comment, and obviously provide some additional time since the representatives are here as well. I think one of them has a presentation, so whoever wants to go first. Actually, if the public, you're more than welcome to go first, but.
Roberto Valdez, you've heard me before. My thoughts on this, I'm glad you're planning ahead. We can't stop time, you know. We're all changing, whether we like it or not. But I worry about the impact, all this development, you know. If there's anything I would ask you to do or not to do is never, ever compromise the whole purpose of the reliever road. Not only for emergencies, but also because of all the changes that are going to be coming from all this development. I'm sad, really am sad. The loss of our wildlife and along that corridor, and also along the agriculture. You know, I think I've lived here long enough, 35 plus years, to know that Vacaville has changed a lot, and we continue to, whether we like it or not. But it's your responsibility, and you, I've said it many times, you're in the hot seat. You have, whatever you do is going to have an impact on all of us. And I'm glad that lady talked about the impact of raising taxes. You know, we're already getting beat by Washington, by what Sacramento is doing. You know, everybody's aware. We're not dumb. We can see it. And I hope we get the truth from the reporters and not be canceled or compromised either, you know. But, you know, and so I say that to you because I'm aware of it. I've tried to educate myself on what's going on in the corridor. You're talking about Leisure Town, Vanden Road. I would include Cement Road, Walters Road, also the Peabody Road, the Travis Air Force Parkway, I just hope that you don't compromise that. And I'm going to be honest with you, I never have forgotten what happened December 5th, 2005 in Vacaville, when all our streets were flooded, when and unfortunately the raccoons were blamed. They're on our side. I think if we had beavers, they would be on our side too. So they know better. They're not going to compromise the open space. But I want to say to you, I hope you don't take that lightly. Think ahead. Be prepared, especially for emergencies. I've seen the roads widen at Leisure Town, but it's, I didn't like it in many ways, but I know you got to do it. But I hope that's enough for emergencies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Carley, members of the council. My name is Todd Chambers with Lewis Planned Communities and representing the Donaldson property and working with the other property owners in the East of Leisure Town. I'd like to ask your permission to go ahead and do some, thank you very much. Appreciate all the work that Albert, Kathy, and Director Morris have done to help us along the way to get to this point. Aside from, we're the largest property owner or representative of the area East of Leisure Town, and aside from all the technical work that's going on, which is quite a lot of in process that we have to go through, thought I'd share a little bit about our vision for the property and get some excitement.
And just for the record, I'm giving you more time. You're representing, so the timer can go off for the moment.
Thank you very much. I'll try and keep it brief. Just to give you all a flavor of what we've been doing kind of behind the scenes, aside from the technical work that's ongoing, and we continue to use the City Council approved guiding principles to inform our efforts as we move forward, and some of those key ones are creating distinct and complete neighborhoods, making neighborhoods walkable and bikeable and pedestrian oriented, providing open space and recreation opportunities and connectivity between those. We do have some rural and urban interface that we're dealing with, a school site that we think is very important to this area of the city, and obviously the variety of housing that we're looking to develop as well. Those were some of the guiding principles that were talked about when we started this process some time ago. So our vision for this area is we think there's a lot of growth and opportunity that will come as part of what the city contemplated in their general plan for some time. So this isn't new to what's going on in the city, but we're at this point now where we're starting to plan for it. And our goal is to bring a best-in-class community to the future of what Vacaville will be a part of. Some of the common elements that we share amongst all of the property owners in the specific plan is that we look to do parks and paseos and have connectivity. We do have some smaller parks as noted as part of your decision to allow us to pursue those, but we also have larger parks, and we're going to do a community park that will be partially on the Donaldson property, partially on the Raisins property, divided by a creek but connected with a pedestrian component, and we think that will be a focal point for future ball fields and activities on a larger scale. We do have several commercial opportunities that both the Donaldson property and the A&P property are pursuing, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as it relates to the Lewis component, and obviously a variety of housing that we're pursuing and we'll touch on. So for the Lewis portion, we're going to call it the resort, and some of the things that, as the biggest landowner that we're getting behind in our collective efforts, if you could move to the next slide, you can see where the Lewis property is focused, and the next slide. So a community clubhouse is a very important component of what Lewis wants to bring to our project. And if you could slip to the next slide, you can see where that's located. This is a rendering of what we're doing in the city of Lincoln right now in a master plan that we're building there. If you were to go out there today, you'd see it. Developed with the clubhouse and the pool component, the activity around it. It's HOA maintained, so it's not something that the city's going to have to pay for. The project will pay for it. But we think it's a special amenity that will bring a nice, a unique recreation and social component to this area. If you could move to the next slide, that's just some existing Lewis owned and operated amenities for our clubhouse. Next slide, please. So focusing down on the left-hand side where it says mixed use, that would be a town center that we're proposing. If you could flip to the next slide. So this is an initial kind of site plan that we've done. We expect it to be grocery anchored with gathering places and plazas in both the hard corner of Hawkins and Leisure Town and also at the far corner. So it would bring the community into the center and find ways to activate it so it becomes a hub for residents, not only for our project, but also for people who are west of Leisure Town who already live there. There's nothing in this area for like a large grocer or any kind of a area to congregate. And so we think that if we bring a nice town center, if you could flip to the next slide, this kind of shows some of the components of what we want to do with the plaza area. It's hard to see all the little pictures up there, but activate it so it's a place where people can gather. If you could go to one more slide, please. Here's the rendering of what that might look like someday when you're driving up Leisure Town Road. And we're talking with a local vendor to try and kick some of that off to see if we can initiate their interest in working with us on the town center. If you could flip to the next one. So this is the school site. I want to let you know that I've had lots of conversations with Superintendent Santopadre and his team about how we can get a school built. And so they collect fees, they chase state dollars, but there will be a gap. And so we think, and we've proposed to them a facilities agreement that will help fund that gap. Part of that will involve bond financing. So right now you have conversations that you're conducting about community facilities districts and updates to those policies. And the bond opportunity for land development component that's only focused on the downtown right now, we would request that you consider expanding that. So that would be helpful for us to work with the school district to help bring that financing gap and get the school built sooner than later. They're very excited about having a school here, a K through 6 school. If you could flip to the next slide. So there's some pictures of what school site might look like that we've worked on in other places in the state. Next slide, please. We talked a lot about parks. We would like to have a park next to the school site as shown here. One of the things I'd like you all to consider is how can you work better with the school district to have joint use facilities? Perhaps there's an opportunity to do that. And if this is a place where it happens, maybe it happens in other locations, but that's something that we're keen on pursuing. We do have some smaller parks, or a smaller park in the upper right-hand corner. Feel like that's a good location for the folks that live in that area of the plan to assemble and have it as a focal point for just that portion of the community, thus the need for the consideration of a smaller park. The next slide, please. And here's some pictures of Louisville parks and what those might look like. And so we'll work with the Parks Department on programming all those facilities. But we would do turnkey developer-built parks so that we would build them sooner than later and get fee credits when we go to pull building permits as part of our program. And I believe all the developers are in this specific plan of pursuing that. So next slide. Lastly, we're bringing a variety of housing. We want to do a lot of density. You won't have your typical backyard. You won't have a cul-de-sac. So all the things and the amenities that we want to bring are what those people will use as their backyard and where they'll recreate and socialize and get around the community with. One of the things I wanted to bring up is that type of housing, and we've talked about it, will be higher density and more attainable. So there isn't anything in that price range that exists in the city today that's new for sale. So we're trying to bring a housing product type that will meet that need for the future. One of the things you all are considering soon is your development impact fees, and you're looking to raise those. So please keep in mind as you do that just raise the cost of housing. We understand that there's a need for increased fees and that in some cases and circumstances, but we just need to be mindful about how we approach that moving forward. So the intent of my comments, again, just to provide some vision and color, and that we're working really hard behind the scenes to bring a beautiful master plan to the rest of this area of the city. We know we have a long road ahead on the technical side, and we just look forward to continuing that. And I thank you very much for your time tonight, allowing me to speak.
Thank you for sharing in some greater detail. Appreciate it.
Therese Herder, good evening, Mayor Carley, council members. I'm with Wisteria Land Group along with my partner, Greg Brunn. Thanks, Todd, for your comments. I just want to be brief. Todd represents Lewis, and Rayson Chen have the adjacencies and synergies that A&P does not have, but A&P will also be bringing amenities and benefits that I'd just like to highlight for you, but I will be brief. Next slide. Thanks, Albert. So this slide represents approximately 1,100 units, 70% of which is 80 to 20 density units per acre. So we are shooting for that, I'm going to say it probably numerous times tonight, missing middle housing, that a lot of jurisdictions that we operate in are really looking to fulfill that. And I think that's what all of these projects of Eastern Leisure Town want to fulfill and embrace. So based on previous sessions, we want to embrace small but highly amenitized parks with linear connectivity. You can see that we've got linear connectivity to the trails and to the mixed-use site, and a number of smaller parts that Todd mentioned will be highly amenitized. Also, the Carroll Way bypass, just in terms of making it walkable, bikeable, pedestrian-friendly. We've done a loop road system with connectivity to the surrounding communities that we think works really well. Next slide. Thanks, Albert. So I think this really captures what we're doing. Spent a lot of time and a lot of conferences in regards to missing middle housing, thinking big and building small to respond to today's housing crisis. Next slide. So just a few examples of typologies I think we're all embracing. The upper left is a two-story townhome. The right upper is a duet. Lower two slides are both cluster configurations, small micro lot configurations, square footage anywhere from approximately 1,000 to maybe 2,000 square feet, which gives the opportunity for some multi-generational living as well. Next slide. So this one really excites me because I just came back from a conference in Dallas called Future Place. And what a lot of the panelists were talking about is what's being utilized in a lot of today's master plan communities. One Lake is a good example, where they've actually activated the park adjacent to the retail space. In this case, it was Journey Coffee and their cafe. And they have the opportunity to really activate those two spaces together and make it much more appealing and much more successful. So imagine you're being able to actually walk through the linear park features to the mixed-use space, which might have, coffee, retailers, eateries, and you can take your kid, you can take your dog, and there's that appeal of that ability to enjoy both spaces together without the separation of a street. So again, it allows for flexibility, longevity, multiple opportunities for uses like food trucks, outdoor entertainment, kid activities, farmers markets. You can see there some of the potential photographs and imagery that reflect that. And then finally, last slide. So here again, same thing as what Todd spoke of. It's the small but mighty parks, where you can do highly amenitized parks that are turnkey by the developer but have a lot of activities, and they're walkable, in terms of where you're located in the neighborhood. Even though it's 100 acres, you can have parks that are easily accessible. Many thanks. Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Pardon me for saying, but it seems to me that we can't seem to get away from the idea that in order for the city to finance itself, it has to keep on expanding. Now, I realize, we don't have a whole lot more chances to do this, so I urge you, as much as you possibly can, get all the fee money you possibly can from these developers, because the population of Solano County and the city of Vacaville is approximately 20% is beyond 65 years old. The younger people who are, say, in their 30s and below now, who are looking to settle into a home, is a much smaller group than the amount of us who are approaching the end of our shelf life. In a few years, there's going to be a whole lot of residential property that's vacant, and there's nobody that's going to be around to take it. Take a look at, for example, Vacaville hasn't built a new school in like, what, 30 years? Why is that? They don't really have the students to warrant it, because for all the expansion that Vacaville has done, the school district couldn't finance, they could get the builder to build a school if they wanted to, probably, but they don't have the ongoing student base to keep the school open. They can't, they don't have enough students to pay for the staffing. That's the bottom line, and that represents everything that's going on with Vacaville now. You have a declining population, and I don't think it's going to change, because I'm really stupid, but I don't understand where this constant amount of people is going to come from once this big bunch of baby boomers starts to pass away.
Thank you. Well, seeing no one else, I'm going to go ahead and close the public portion of this item, bring it back to the council. Councilmember Silva?
Yeah, so just a few items, I think you guys are just looking for general feedback maybe, or something to that effect. Is that right for staff? Just to keep me focused here.
Well, I'm not in a position to restrict the council's comments for tonight, so.
Okay, well, then I'll run through it briefly as possible. So just, I think, something that comes up is just the appropriate distribution of housing options. So, I mean, that's been echoed in the presentations and laid out in a zoning change. I was a little concerned about the lack of commercial. So I just need to clarify at some point, why is it zone mixed use versus commercial, or so I just need a little bit more education on that. But one thing that I think I just see that there's, if a lot of folks are driving through that corridor, in my mind, is how do we leverage that potential market while still serving the residents that'll be in that particular area. So I'm just kind of trying to clarify a little bit more on that zoning element, but the proposed images look great. Happy to hear about the collaboration with the school system. We'll see how that continues how that continues to go. And I think, one thing that came up with another development I'll give them a little shout out, the train gang. Just kind of curious to see how, just making sure that the concerns about the sounds from a railroad in itself are at least addressed in one way or another. So I'll be looking out for that and see where we take that. I do have concerns about just getting more depth about the water supply for the area. I know we have, I like the images showing, or the graphics showing, the location of the current creek water flow. I know there's, a canal we just shifted over. But I think one area that I'm particularly just really trying to understand is the quality of the presence and quality of our sub-basin. So if we're cutting off, so I'm just trying to clarify how would this impact our ability to recharge our underground aquifers, and as well as just get more educated on where the water supply for these folks would come from and the impact it would have on the existing residents. Because we've heard things in the past about that. I think that, so happy to hear about that part. Also, I think part of the discussion, I'm just kind of curious to see in what ways, particularly when we're talking about the school site, as well as, are there other opportunities to support long-term vision about the Elmira area, particularly even with that school site, because I think one of the concerns is about how we get fiber optic cable to that area, or the supportive infrastructure that we need in the new millennium. And the last thing I was kind of, I don't think it's the appropriate time because I don't think we have enough information, but one thing I just want to put out to consider, and I'm really curious to see, again, thinking long-term, just like folks in this town did 100 years ago with water rights and whatnot, how do we look at one point getting off the grid? And so, if we're looking at expanding at this point, what would that look like? What could that look like in this particular area, to where not that they're on an independent grid at this point, but what would be needed for that? Is that certain conduit that would need to be placed that would be independent of that of PG&E owned by the city of Vacaville, or what could that look like as far as how we prep for potentially one day Vacaville or Solano County being energy independent? So, thank you.
Councilmember Stockton?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. I'm very excited anytime I see a school and a grocery store. I'm going to hold you guys to that. I'm just letting you know right now, like, if you need a bold program to build a school, let's talk about it. I am very interested in, those funding options that are not in perpetuity and go on forever and ever and ever. If that amount of money is needed to build a school, once it's there and it's done in 30 years or whatever the term is of that, I think we should have those conversations. I would encourage staff to bring that to council as an option. I really like how you utilize some of the space with the parks next to some of the mixed use areas to activate that. I'm going to re-emphasize the fact that I think these water basins, when they're not filled with water, could be used as fields. Even if it's half a soccer field or something like that. While I'm talking about soccer, I saw a lot of open fields. I know that I've used some of my district dollars for soccer goals. They were not super expensive. Be really nice if we could add some soccer goals to those fields. They roll, so you can move them around. That way, council members don't have to use their district dollars for that. And I know we're always looking for field space to kind of spread that out. And then lastly, I just wanted to thank, it's very clear that you've taken our council comments, not only on east of Leisuretowne projects, but on other projects, and you've implemented some of those strategies into this plan. You've worked together, and I know it's a larger space, which has allowed us some flexibility to incorporate some of these things. So I just really want to thank the cooperation between some of our developers that spoke today and property owners, and I know our staff has worked tremendously hard on this. So I would like to thank everyone involved in that. I think this is very exciting to see some of these amenities, and that's really what's going to make it or break it for me. I saw a pool. I know that's a big deal for North Village, right? But I want to see that locked in, ironclad. Right, I want the city attorney's office involved to make sure that happens. Okay, duly noted. And then the other thing with the pool is I don't know if I missed it in the rendering. I just want to make sure that's fenced off. I'm sure we have a policy about making sure that it's that way, but I want to make sure that's fenced off. But very exciting. Looking forward to see how you take our comments and lock it in. Okay.
Councilmember Wiley.
Thank you all for the presentation. I'll start with my question there for Albert. You talked at the beginning of the presentation about talking to the community and community meetings and things like that. Since this isn't real close to houses existing, because it's right now empty fields or agricultural fields, except for the houses on the other side of Leisuretowne, when you send out the notices, who got those? And how are you, when you talk about you want the community's input, is it just those people that are on the other side of Leisuretowne, or who's your target audience?
We do a couple different things. So the target audience is broad. It involves everybody, really, because we post on social media and we post on a variety of different, on our website as well. And specific to this area, we have other notification requirements. So we've got a map that we used. We took about 600-foot radius, looked at what that would look like away from the property boundaries. We expanded it to 1,000 feet beyond the project boundaries. And then when we looked at how it transected with existing development on the other side of Leisuretowne Road, we moved that line so that way it coincided with streets. And that was really for those that would be affected by construction activity, maybe the traffic circulation, those ones that are they're not directly right next to it, but they're in the vicinity of the project, they explicitly get those notices. But this is publication information that'll be posted. It's going to be on our website. We'll do blurbs on social media about it, so that way everybody has an opportunity, because this is a pretty substantial project, and so we want to make sure if it's a citywide kind of initiative that people have an opportunity to voice their opinion.
Okay, and I'll kind of correct myself, it's not just on the other side of Leisure Town, but up and down, like Roberts Ranch and Brighton Landing and all those houses, which, those two projects added a lot of houses already to that road and to that area without the grocery store and those sorts of things. So that's the first question. And then the other thing I wanted to address to Mr. Chambers, I liked what you have about the resort and things like that, but you did mention the HOAs to pay for a lot of things. And currently, Vacaville doesn't have a lot of HOA areas. We have some, but we don't have a lot. And when people are looking for houses here, often they say, oh, I was looking someplace else, but you don't have the HOAs, or I like that. So just tell me a little bit about how you see that helping, other than the city doesn't have to pay for it and the developer doesn't pay for it, but it adds to the cost of whoever's buying the house. So that was just my question. So are you talking about HOAs for across the board on most of these, or just in specific areas? And then also for the your presentation about the splash pads and the A&P. So you mentioned a splash pad in one of the parks, and we just visited some parks. We took a little field trip to Elk Grove, and there is if you have a real splash pad, then you have to have bathroom facilities, and that really adds to it. If you have a mister, it doesn't require the bathroom facilities, I don't think. So just you might want to differentiate what exactly is the plan when you're looking at that. And just a little bit more on that, we visited wonderful parks in Elk Grove and also a big community center that they had. But most of their parks were big. They have a lot of small parks. And their comment was that people with the small parks are saying, well, now we don't have the fields, so we want bigger parks. So I really appreciate that there is a community park as part of this that has, place for ballparks. But I was still concerned with the size of the parks on the plan. And I think this looks good in a lot of ways. I wondered if all the houses are planned for single-family homes for sale, or if some of those are rental components. And was there an apartment building still in there somewhere, or did that get disappeared? And the final thing is, we had a great plan for Green Tree, and they were doing all that work, and Green Tree looked like, oh, hey, but now nothing's going on. So I don't want to approve something, and then down the line, it's like, well, it's the same thing, the field's graded, but nothing's happening. So those are my concerns.
Councilmember Freeman.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Thanks for the presentation. My comments are, I remember prior to being on council, coming to council meetings, and in regards to these projects, and I remember council members saying that they were expecting a wow factor from the developers, and to put on your A game and come in here and, show what you were going to do for our community. And so I think Lewis Homes delivered on the wow factor based on just some of the slides that I just saw, because I know that we have food deserts out there. We have challenges for a lot of the community. Probably a major portion of our community lives on the east side of Peabody Road. And I know that we have some challenges for everybody that's living out there. It's a food desert. So I applaud you. I think that you're working hard on hitting the wow factor. The other property, no disrespect intended. I just don't feel like I experienced a little bit of the wow factor with it. Quite, there's some good things in there. When I see food trucks, as a component, we are already having issues with food trucks and taking business away from our local restaurants. So that's just a concern. And I'm not bad-mouthing this at all, because I know you guys put a lot into it, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. I just really wanted to say I was impressed with the wow factor for what Lewis Homes presented. That's it.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Sorry, I'll be brief. Lots of stuff has already been said, so I won't repeat it, but really it is echoing that we've been talking and had a lot of meetings and lunches with the developers and on public. They've heard our demands, our requests, and to really kind of create that wow factor ever when we actually said that comment. Thank you, Ted, for and yes, it's delivering. Like when I looked at the missing middle, the two portions, about 2,100 homes. That portion is the part that really excites me about the whole development, is making sure we don't have a food desert. I live over there, and making sure we have that part of town to be activated is interesting because, you know, the South Town where Jeanette was talking about earlier, it had that opportunity. It was going to be designed to have a commercial space. The community complained, they took it away, and that which never did. So it's amazing when you look at things that happened and why it happened, now they wish they didn't. But I like the fact that we're planning the right way now to create the kind of commercial space that will make people want to be in that community and have fun and kind of interact. Out of that missing middle, the portion of those 2,300 homes, what percentage, I remember back and forth, would be ownership of that medium to high density, and what portion of those medium high density would be rentals? I know the high density is all apartments, but there might be some portion of that medium and high density that will still be built to rent. And then you have a high density apartment complex. That was one of the questions I still have. I'm really excited about the project. I was just reviewing today, I got notification by, I'm not saying De Nova Homes. They sent me information today about how they're launching exactly like this, townhomes, different structures, as small as 730 square feet. Like, developers are realizing that they need to find ways to make sure that houses are affordable and home ownership is attainable by building smaller. It's catching on, and we need to make sure that happens here to have home ownership. Activating 2,300 homes, or 4,300 total, the tax base, once again, the tax base on Prop 13 that would incur for the city is absolutely groundbreaking. 4,000 new homes is like having 30,000 homes of Vacaville that have been there for 15 or 20 years on the tax-based assessment. That would really generate a lot of revenue, and hopefully people stay here and love the community and spend their time, have fun. I enjoy the project. The one comment I have is, in District 2, we have built a new school. So Kairos Public Schools is a charter school. It's the first school in 31 years. Everybody just happens to skip over it. That school was created with passion and ingenuity. Like, they had to use different methods to finance it. The fact that we're talking about bold, the fact we're talking about collaboration, you can't do the traditional path, expect a miracle to happen. If we don't think differently, like using bold other ways to make schools, it's not going to happen. So I appreciate the conversation. Kairos made it happen by not thinking the old school way. They figured it out. We can do it too. The joint use that's been in effect since Reggie Hubbard was here, right, we're trying to make it work. So I appreciate the conversation is continuing. That's it.
Vice Mayor Chapman.
Thank you. Thank you for the comments this evening from those who came forward to speak, from our staff. A couple of things. Well, first of all, I want to make mention that I'm thankful of all the amenities that you put into the plan, in the draft plan. And I won't repeat what's already been stated about the food source and all of them. The lot size, you stated that with some of the amenities, it eliminates the need for maybe a backyard. Now, when zero lot homes came about, that cut down the distance between homes, correct? That was the zero lot, what it meant. Now, when you cut out the backyard, exactly what's left other than the structure? What does the family have? I would really like to know, especially if it's a 1,000 square foot lot.
Right. I think part of, not a bad question, I think that's where the next steps are going to go, because everything here is conceptual. Well, we're really, listen, I think that this is good, because this really helps staff and council engage in a conversation when we don't normally get to.
Right.
This is really a draft land use plan discussion. So this is the front end where it is about density, but it isn't there is nothing that's necessarily, here's a final product. And I hear like, well, here's where the pool's going to go, or who's the HOA. All those things have to come out of the next steps.
Sure.
So just so you know, there's basically target densities for the different density types and acreages. And so all that is, this is the draft, how it will be laid out, and then what that will look like will come in far more granular parts of the process that will go through Planning Commission, go through the processes. This really is just an update to us, but I felt that this was an opportunity to provide a lot more latitude.
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate your comment. When I was asking about the zero lot, my knowledge base was.
I lived in one, so I know.
Okay. And so that was just informational purpose, not to try to, touch on it. But the draft that you brought in this evening, I appreciate it. I really do. And it's a beginning, but we're further than we were a while back.
Councilmember Stockton, I think you had another comment.
Yes, I do. I just want to be very brief because I already spoke. I just wanted to make sure that the A&P children folks know I absolutely am wowed by what you put together here. We have looked for these small entry-level homes, these cluster homes that you've done, and these innovative duplexes and stuff. You listened exactly with some of the stuff that I think the city is really lacking for that entry-level homeowner to be able to come in and buy, have a sense of community. So I just wanted to make sure, like, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think you need to change a thing with that whole thing. It is a unique product that I'm not seeing in Vacaville. I like that you put the stuff in the corner. I just wanted to be crystal clear with you just because that is a wow for me to see that type of community being built where young families can actually get their foot in the door, have that sense of community, share those amenities, because that's what's going to help them get that next house someday if that is a for sale model. So I just wanted to make sure that I put that on the record because I'm impressed by all of it, but I don't want to discount what you're offering because we've talked about that up here too. So I just wanted to make sure that you heard that.
Councilmember Ritchie, did you have another comment?
Yeah, super quick. I just didn't want us to leave here with like a negative connotation on the zero lot line. As I look up, it's not as bad as what it's projected. There's a gentleman sitting in the crowd in a blue LA Dodgers. Dodgers? Yeah, that's right. They won. Shirt that helped build some zero lot line homes. Like I think if he can just give a 30-second overview of what a cluster driveway, a zero lot line actually is, it's not what the thing that is projected here. I spent a lot of time, friends live in those, they're amazing. You still have backyards. It's more the projection of the side yard to the front yard proximity. So if you give a 30-second overview, what a zero lot line actually is as pertaining to having personal space, you still have personal space. It's not like your backyard's crunched against somebody you can pass sugar through the back window. That's a misnomer, it's not true. So would you please give us an explanation, like 30 seconds of what the Portofino was?
And while he's coming up here, I will say there's a lot of great products. I mean, you think of Portofino and others. And so it's all about your neighbor, but what it is, it's livability in ways that reaches the missing middle, that entry level that works very well. So.
First of all, I'm very proud to wear this jacket after the last 2 years.
Be careful.
So I'm glad you brought up the Portofino project. In my career, I've worked in Vacaville 46 years doing land development and residential projects. Probably one of the ones I'm most proud of is the Portofino project. And there's a few reasons for that. As you look at the individual homes, they're duets and they share one wall, but the other side has a traditional side yard and a traditional rear yard. So from how the house looks from the street, it's amazing. They look like beautiful homes, but people keep them up. And the nice part about these, the homes are 1,121 square feet to 1,500 square feet, which is ideal for entry-level homes.
I know my first home in Vacaville was 1,320 square feet. We just aren't building any of those types of homes in Vacaville. If you look at the building permits over the last few years, we have no homes that are in that size. And that's what brings young families to Vacaville. So I appreciate Portofino, I think, is a fantastic one. Not only are there the duets, but we had courtyard homes that we put in there as well. So it's another way of clustering 4 or 5 homes around one driveway. And the homes still have their separate rear yards. On the clusters, they actually have side yards on both sides. And so the driveway component to the front yard that we don't usually use very much is the courtyard, is how that works. So I've been advocating for the Portofino kind of project for a long, long time. I know we didn't make a presentation like the other 2 property owners, but I'm working with the Raisins, and we are anticipating doing a lot of these kind of duet homes. We think they're a fantastic amenity, and we're really supportive of that. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I really do like the Portofino product.
What's that?
I was just saying, I really do like the Portofino product.
Yeah, we've been very thrilled, and it holds its value very well. In fact, even on a per square foot basis, it actually sells for a slightly higher price than the more traditional single-family detached.
Yeah, thank you.
The mayor didn't say he really likes your jacket.
No, I didn't. But they won well, I'll say that. My final thoughts, I'm not going to reiterate what has been said, but what I will say is, the wow factor is something that is personal. The one thing that always causes me to think about, we look at images and we try to envision what that would look like for us, whether we're a single airman that's needing a place to live, and that looks like a great spot on the south side of town, real close to the base. It comes down to a question, but then really a statement. Would I want to live here? What we want people to feel is, I want to live here. Whether it's the home, the neighborhood, the experience, what's nearby, what's in the community. That's what we want for all of Vacaville, every neighborhood, whether we're trying to improve one or we're trying to build another. We know that we are growing and we're trying to plan responsibly. So I commend the staff, I commend the owners of the properties and those who are representing as developers to taking this conscientious effort to working with staff. This is important. You don't remodel a land use, right? You can change some zoning, but if we're doing this, we're serious about what it is. And again, this is just a reminder to the council and the public. This is really the front end of the process. This isn't in the details. There are things that have to be done, like to the point, an HOA neighborhood has to, if there's going to be these things, they're going to have to be identified. If there's a pool, it's probably going to have to be in an HOA because we're right. But the thing is that won't be at this stage. This is the land use stage. I do like, and I think that we have all said to you all before, is how we can get to the turnkey parks. Yes, those visits are very important. When you can see that they can be done, and we have said that we can make some, we can make some understanding in some of these that might be smaller than the typical 6-acre, and so there's a compromise in what that looks like. I do think that there's a balance between what it can be, and even in Elk Grove, they had smaller ones. They had 1 acres that they called local parks. 1 acre is probably small, too small, but I think in some areas where you don't need everybody needing to drive somewhere. I like what this is presenting, and so I am very impressed with the work. But I'm more than just that. I appreciate the collaboration between the city and all of you working together to try and create this. I really commend you all for that. I'm not quite sure, but I think it's important for the future, the difference between commercial and mixed use. I do believe that those renderings are great because that's what people want. I want to be able to walk 2 blocks and I can actually get to a grocery store and I don't have to get in a car. In some cases, that will. So I like the vision. I do, and so I appreciate what's come to us so far. As far as the land use plan, I don't have any recommendations to change any of this, and so I'm very pleased with what you brought to us so far. And so with that, this is really just a review of the East of Leisure-Town Growth Area Draft Land Use Plan and receive the update. And so the next steps are on the way, but at least you got some more feedback. It's always good, right? So thank you, and thank you for taking the time tonight. This is the last item on our agenda. Closed session was completed at the front end of this, and so we will adjourn at 8:59. So good night, Vacaville.